are not going to start with council right away. As many of you know, we're going to start with the Quincy meeting, and Jack Walker is our president who's going to introduce us.
Hey guys, yeah, so this Quincy meeting is to make some changes to the bylaws of the corporation. For those of you who, I gave this kind of brief end of last council, but for those of you who don't remember, Quincy is currently Queen's University Engineering Society Services Incorporated, and it is the corporation that runs, among other things, the campus bookstore. So we're making some changes to the bylaws of this corporation. The board consists of myself, Lily, and 3 other students, and then 4 non-students, so it's a student majority. Changes are being made just to make sure that we're in compliance with some new legislation in Ontario regarding not-for-profits. So this meeting is not council, this is a meeting of the Quincy membership, which is all undergraduate engineering students. So we have a quorum in here, happens to be at the same time as council, but it is not council. So all of you guys, if you are an undergraduate engineering student, are voting members. Your positions on the engineering society, if you have them, are not relevant for this meeting. You're all just voting members at large here. And I think that is basically it for my opening spiel. I'll pass it off to David, who is the president's request.
Okay. Oh, you're going to stay right there. Well, I'll stay right here. I'll introduce you in a minute. Thanks, Jack. My name's David Strong. I'm a prof in Macklin Materials, but not tonight. Tonight, I'm actually here as president of Quincy. I've been on the Quincy board for so many years, about 17 or 18. There have been and continue to be faculty representation on the board. In the past, there's been multiple representatives from Queens, from Senate, and other areas. We shrunk the board a few years ago. It's actually 9 now, and the students have the majority. There's 5 students on the board, and 4 others. So there's currently 2 faculty, myself and Dr. Rob Noble. There's 2 Nobles for those people in physics, and 2 others. One past chair of the board, so anyway, without going into it in depth, you're well represented, and you, as Jack said, you as members are effectively part of the Quincy organization. And so over the last few years, there's been significant changes to the whole book business, the publishing business, the way books are sold, not just books, but educational materials. And we've had incredible independent management. And I should also point out, just really briefly, the Quincy board is not, and we're not an operations board. We don't run day-to-day business. We hire general manager who hires the people that run the business. So it's a policy board. And the business has been literally run as good or better than any of its kind in North America. And I'm not exaggerating when I say that. Our past manager, who's currently an advisor to the board, Chris Haber, is literally renowned in North America and is still to this day being consulted for his knowledge about the business. And we've done the best we can, but obviously things are changing. But the other thing that's happened is the Ontario government changed the legislation for not-for-profits, and that's another thing. It is a not-for-profit business, so it's not there to make money. The mission has always been to turn money back into discounts for students, and the bookstores tried to do that to the extent it could throughout the nearly 20 years that the bookstore has been running. And for the record, bookstore was originally started by 2 engineers, just about 120 years ago. It was 117 this year, if I remember correctly. And it's been owned by the Engineering Society ever since. So it's got a wonderfully long history. So tonight, we're just mainly here because we've had to update something related to our business articles in terms of the work we do, just to make it more current, but most importantly, update the bylaws to comply with the new Ontario Not-for-Profit Act. And it's not really an option, it's mandatory to do so. So before I introduce Peter beside me here, and I'll tell you who he is in a minute, are there any general questions about Quincy in This gentleman on my right is Mr. Peter Tobias. Peter has been the legal counsel for Quessy for the same number of years, at least more, 20 years. Peter is obviously integrally familiar with the business and has been working with us, working with the special committee of the board that's been doing this work, and Peter is taking care of a lot of the legal details, in particular the legalese. So this special meeting, rather than me carry on, and since Peter's kind enough to be here, I'm going to pass it to Mr. Tobias to walk us through this.
Hi, call me Peter. So, just to reiterate, you're here at the moment, at the opening of this meeting, as members of Quessy. Quessy is a non-share capital Ontario corporation, and the members in this instance are equivalent to shareholders in many respects. The main purpose here is to bring the records of the corporation up to date, and the corporation, because it's a non-share capital corporation, bring the records up to date so we're in a position to file new articles. The articles are the constituent documents that go on the public file to show we've updated the company. Then we're going to update the bylaws to reflect the new obligations and comply with the new act. So you would have all gotten a copy of the notice, and I know that's why there's so many of you here tonight, because this is so compelling. So the first order of business is to pass by ordinary resolution, meaning just a simple majority of people here. A resolution which, if you don't mind, start scrolling to the top of Appendix 1, so you can actually see, because many of you probably will not have brought this. The idea is to update the corporate records of the company to confirm the financial statements for the past 3 or 4 years. These are regularly made available to your student members. We're confirming the directors for the past 3 years to get the company into a level of compliance to make these changes. You will recognize many of these names from your tenure here, particularly the ones that we get later on. And Jim and all of the board members have confirmed that these are the correct people that are now on the board, to at least show the chain of responsibility for the last few years. So you're going to be asked to approve all of these resolutions in one batch. Okay. We're confirming that the number of directors has been fixed at 9, because that's now what we're operating with. We're confirming the directors we now have, and these are the people there. Please, if you're on that list and you don't want to be, let us know. Okay.
That's the rest.
Yep. We're confirming that KPMG has continued to act as auditors of the corporation throughout the last 3 or 4 years to ensure that the financial reporting expected of Queens under the lease between Queens and Quessy is up to date. We confirm that the officers and directors, who frankly all serve as volunteers, don't get paid, that they are entitled to indemnification, or basically reimbursement of any costs or damages from the company in the event they're sued. I have no recollection of any of them ever being sued. And then we just have a general confirmation of proceedings of the books and records of the company that has as by practice known as whitewash. We just clean up the records. I think that's probably the last one, right? Yeah. Are there any questions? Yeah.
Did any say name to this?
No, this is not.
Okay. Can you just go into a bit more detail about the financial reporting? I've asked the last 2 general meetings about seeing the financial records, and you told me the board can see those.
For Quessy?
Yes.
Well, I thought they were published.
You can see the audited financial.
Yeah, you see the audited financial statements, not the
You don't
operating
see the
statements.
operating statements. the
Yeah,
monthly
so
operating
the
statements.
compilation statements you see, for example, for the Bank of Montreal, when they report
Yeah.
annually, that's the level of detail you get.
Okay. And those are shared.
Those are, to my understanding, they're, under the terms of the lease of Queens, are supposed to be published.
They're usually available at the AGM, the annual AGM, when the slate of new directors is posed. That's when the financial statements, it's abbreviated, it's not like Peter said, it's like you see for a big company, but.
So this is not meant to replace your annual meeting?
Yeah.
This is just an intermediate meeting.
Yeah.
Okay? Yes?
I just wanted to ask about the confirmation of the 9 directors, just because reading through the Quincy bylaw, I see 15 directors, so is that something that we can confirm before we update the bylaw then to reflect that?
We're doing that because, well, if you want the nitty-gritty detail, I'll give it to you. We have been in the course of negotiating a new lease with Clark Hall with Queens for about 4 years. Queens is extraordinarily fast.
Really
We had a settled draft 2 years ago, and it's now been lost in the great black hole we call the administration here. And the agreement on the draft was that we could reduce the number of Queens representatives to enhance the voice of the students, and to not have so many people on the board. It was 15. And we have, despite Queens' failure to get around to signing, moved to 9. Because it's convenient and Queens isn't gonna complain. So that's how we got there.
If I could just add one thing to that, we, just generally speaking, the last communications we had, and one thing that happened was the responsibility within Queens for doing this lease moved from one administration office to another one, and 2 people left. And in that process, and it's not for lack of trying, but there was general agreement to move forward with just a few little things to clean up. So it wasn't like there was any adversity or anything like that. It was very close. And on the strength of that, we decided to move ahead. The other Queens, honestly, they came to us at that time. They did not want to keep putting 4 people on board. And it's also reflective of the size of the business. The size of the business has changed significantly, and it's appropriate to adjust the size of the board. The most important thing is students still have the majority vote on the board. The chair of the board is still a student. I'm the president. I should have made that clear. I'm the president of the board, and as such, one of the reasons for that is so you have somebody that has continuity. And in the bylaws, the president is generally the chief executive officer, but the chair of the board is always a student, and that's never changed. So, I just want everybody to understand that these bylaws have gone back and forth and back and forth. The lease, under which the bylaws were to be updated, has gone back and forth and back and forth. So this is reflective of everything that was in that lease, basically.
Awesome, thank you.
So David is being much kinder to his colleagues at Queens than those of us outside the institution would be. But, so we're really just bringing the records up to date to get us ready for the next 2 fundamental steps. Is there any discussion? If there are no questions, may I have someone move the motion to pass, back up to appendix 1, please, to pass all of those resolutions en bloc, all together. Thank you. A seconder, please. Thank you. All in favor? Contrary, if any? That's approved. Please note in the minutes. Appendix 2. Appendix 2, now that we've brought the company up to date and at least in compliance with our anticipated outcome on the lease, we're now going to amend the constituent document. We call it the articles. The articles are what are filed for Ontario companies to reflect the creation of a separate legal person for commercial purposes. So what we have to do is to move out of the existing Corporations Act into the Not-for-Profit Corporations Act. We need to approve updated articles. If you don't mind, could you go down to the next part of number 2, and I'll show the folks. Keep going to, oh, it's not attached there. Oh, that's a drag.
Unfortunately.
What are we looking for?
I've got a form that's in my return copy that was circulated.
It isn't all those kind of students.
It is, okay. Okay, well then I'll just explain it. It's not the end of the earth. What's being changed, other than filing matters, is to essentially compress and summarize the existing objects of Quessy that were set up in 1957, something like that. And because there were really 2 purposes. There was one purpose of running a supply and book and text store, And the second was to support educational activities, including the support of, financial support of activities, educational activities at Queen's. So the new articles basically take out references to all kinds of things that are now extraneous and confirm that the two prongs of the objects or purposes are to run the bookstore on a not-for-profit basis and to fund educational activities at Queen's. The articles are also updated to reflect that upon the termination of the company, which we call dissolution, the residual, if any, and there's no assurance there will be any, is to be directed by the board, which is governed 5-4 by students, to a not-for-profit corporation or a charity with purposes similar to our enterprise, so that if there's surplus, the purpose of Quessy can live on by supporting, in all likelihood, scholarships, bursaries, programs at Queen's. Okay, so we can't tell what the future will hold, but we want to have the flexibility to have any surplus money allocated to that purpose. Any questions? Okay. Would someone please move the approval of this 4-part resolution approving the articles and the movement of the company into the new act? Yes?
Seconded.
Second, Jack. All in favor? Contrary, if any? Thank you. Pass. So now, the next layer down in the governance, just like NSOC, I suspect, is that you have bylaws, operating bylaws. And sorry, it's behind 3, so I messed it up. Keep going. Yeah, see, that's my error in the order. Those are the summaries that I went through. So, if we go to resolution 4, appendix 4, that is the resolution to approve new updated bylaws. And the updated bylaws were sent to you in the email package as appendix 5. If I give you highlights of what's being amended, it makes it more clear than the past revisions that you, the engineering students who are members of NSOC, Undergraduate Society of Engineering at Queen's, no matter what it's called, they can rename the school any way they want. You are the membership, the ultimate voting body, and you your membership is non-transferable. The notion is that you are only a member of Quessy as long as you're in NSOC. So when you graduate, or you leave, or you transfer, then you stop being a member. It's meant to be connected to a student body in place at the relevant meeting. The other thing that we indicate is, of course, that you can't transfer your membership. It's not a property right. It's a right that goes along with being a member of NSOC and being involved. And upon the conclusion of the company, again, any surplus goes to the purposes identified in the articles, which we just talked about. Okay? Any questions? Oh, okay. So would you please move a motion to approve the resolution attached to appendix 4?
Move.
A seconder, please. All in favor? Contrary, if any? Thank you. Happy to answer questions now that we're through the voting, but if not, I'm also happy to go away.
I mean, I gave a decent overview at our last council.
Yeah, that's great.
So hopefully that's it for time.
Thank you. Thank you very much for allowing us to do this and getting in there quickly, and good luck with the rest of the meeting.
Thank you for coming in after hours.
Cheers.
placards if you're a proxy, if you have a vote, you just put it up in the air and make sure we're all good.
Jackson is on the floor.
Okay. All right, we're good. Amazing. Enjoy your pizza. I'm going to start reading the motion. Okay. Adoption of the agenda. Motion 1. Motion 1. Whereas an agenda was made and whereas we need to approve it, be it resolved that council approve the agenda of the council meeting of November 28th as seen on the Engineering Society website. Moved by Chloe, we hate the rain, McClusick, seconded by Madeline, but we love the snow, Provo. Is there an opening from either of our members? Seeing none. Is there a debate from anyone? Seeing none, is there a closing from either of our members? All right, motion 1. Whereas an agenda was made and whereas we need to approve it, be it resolved that council approve the agenda of the council meeting of November 28th as seen on the Engineering Society website. Moved by Chloe McClusick, seconded by Madeline Provo. Can I see votes for the motion, please? Thank you very much. Can I see votes against the motion? Are there any abstentions? Motion 1 passes. Motion 2. Whereas it's been some amount of time since the last council, and whereas Nina wrote the minutes and they need to be approved, be it resolved that council approve the minutes of the council meeting of Thursday, November 8th, 2024, as seen on the Engineering Society website. Moved by Chloe, all dressed up like McClusick, seconded by Madeline, and nowhere to go, Provo. Is there an opening from either of our movers? Seeing none, is there any debate on the motion? Seeing none, is there any closing from our movers? All right. Motion 2. Whereas it's been some amount of time since the last council, and whereas Nina wrote the minutes and they need to be approved, be it resolved that council approve the minutes of the council meeting of Thursday, November 8th, 2024, as seen on the Engineering Society website. Moved by Chloe McClusick, seconded by Madeline Provo. Can I see votes for the motion, please? Thank you very much. Can I see votes against the motion? Are there any abstentions? Motion 2 passes. Hooray. It is now time for the speaker's business, which is in fact my business, and we're going to start with not my business. We're going to start with land acknowledgement from the director of the advocacy.
Okay, let us acknowledge that Queens is situated on traditional Anishinaabe and Haudenosaunee territory. I invite you all to bring awareness to the ground where your feet are laid today. My name is Sasha, I'm biracial, I'm a woman, and I'm the child of immigrants. My mother is originally from Ukraine. I was fortunate enough to grow up speaking both Russian and Ukrainian. To this day, I'm able to speak my mother tongue, and I recognize what a privilege it is to do so as a visitor on indigenous land. I acknowledge that indigenous families and communities can continue to bear the effects of residential schools and colonialism, and I invite you to move forward in the spirit of reconciliation and collaboration. As leaders of a society, I call on you to leverage your power and voice in solidarity for indigenous peoples. I will demonstrate my commitment by supporting indigenous organizations such as the Indigenous Futures in Engineering to help bridge the gap in STEM outreach, and I call on you to demonstrate your commitment in your own way.
Thank you very much for that land acknowledgement. All right, so we're going to move into the rest of the speaker's business. So thanks everyone for the collective meeting. That was great. It was very fun. One note about this, normally, I don't expect this to happen, but normally if council goes over 3 hours, we need to move to extend council. Since we started at about 7 o'clock, this is now moved to 10 instead of the usual 9:30. So if we hit 9:30 and everyone's like, we should extend council, no, we'll wait until then. Sounds good, everyone, amazing. I was also asked to share some news about Civil because they don't have a club report, but they had a quick thing to mention. There's an event happening. Would you like to give a bit more information? I don't know if I caught all of it.
We have an event going on through Civil. This has been happening for a couple years through Civil, but it's been mainly run by an undergrad, then did her graduate year, I believe. So she's been kind of taking control of it for the past couple years, but now the graduate student is leaving, and she's asking for as much involvement from discipline presidents and anyone who wants to add this event potentially to their portfolio. Basically, it's called Helping Handbags. It just helps women in need around Christmas. You go by certain drop-off locations, drop off feminine hygiene products as well as just general hygiene products, and then it's brought to Downhouse Women's Shelter in Kingston. There has been a drop-off location in Alice for quite a couple years now, but now we're getting I believe MEC has one coming out now too. So if your discipline isn't involved or you would like to be involved with this, please come and talk to me and I will give you the information for people running it. The graduate student is leaving, so if no one else really tries to help out with this, it's going to cease to exist. Thanks.
All right, thank you very much. That is all from
Actually, can you start at the next slide? Sweet. All right. Hi, everybody. My name is Lucas. I'm a third-year mechatronics and robotics student. You'll probably know me as the guy who just won't shut up at these councils. I know. I'll introduce Elise, though. She's the better half of this.
Hi, I'm Elise. Thank you for welcoming me to EdgeSoc for just tonight. I am a second-year Con Ed student. We are both hired by SHAD Canada to create this club.
Next slide.
So what is SHAD? So SHAD is a summer program. It's a STEAM-based summer program that runs during the month of July across Canada at a bunch of different university campuses. It's been around for 40 years, and it should be noted that it is a registered charity. And so their goal now, which they've hired us to do, is to expand their impact to universities.
Next slide. So just quickly for reference, if you go to the SHAD Wikipedia page, there's 5 notable alumni. These are the 3 on who are from Queens, so we've got a pretty good reputation from it. Neil up there is a commerce student, I know, but he started writing with Golden Words, and now he's a New York Times bestseller. He's got this amazing book, 100 Facts That Make You Happy or something. I don't know, he's got a blog too, he's cool. Darlene over here, she's a NASA scientist. She was I forget if she was at GeoEng or not, but yeah, I don't know. Huge impact on the Mars rover program. And then Michelle Romanavo, probably one of Queen's most favorite graduates. She was civil engineer 04, I think. We're 50-50 if she was on FC. Yeah, I was gonna say FC records are getting a little fuzzy around that time. But she's also the founder of the Team Room. So these are all SHAD alumni who came here, brought their leadership skills to Queens. So Queen's values very much aligned with SHAD, what the SHAD program produces and what we're expecting to do. So that's why we're really excited about bringing it here. Yeah.
Okay, so our idea for our club is to create a space for alumni to connect and share with the rest of the Queens community to grow and share teamwork, leadership, and multidisciplinary thinking.
I also forgot Able Seats alumni, just for reference. So what we have so far is we've got 15 founding members. We needed some paperwork filled out. We're like, hey, who wants to say, yeah, I'm definitely ready to do this club, and within 12 hours we had 15 people ready to go, which was great. We've already got 99 Instagram followers. Again, that was just from one sidewalk sale during O Week. As well, we got a $500 startup kind of seed funding from SHAD Central, and we do have a mandate to use that up by the end of the year. So if you looked at our budget and we're like, hey, they're running right to zero, that's because SHAD said we have to with the $500 they gave us. And then yeah, there's a commitment from SHAD to hire people like us again next year to do a bit of recruitment for them, as well as try to do some stuff back at their university communities come the fall. So this is something that's definitely has consistency over the next couple of years. Yeah, you want to do this?
Yeah, so some of the goals for our club, the main goal is to create a community of lifelong learners, supportive colleagues, and involved individuals. From there, we have a few other goals. We want to offer talks from Queens and SHAD alumni on their experience in leadership, entrepreneurship, critical thinking, and solving problems. We have a few lined up already that are ready to go, just as soon as we get the approval to be a club. And then we also want to do outreach, so that could be volunteering at or leading outreach activities in the Queensland community. This could be science fairs, community groups, it could be at schools. We're really open to, yeah.
So why EngSoc? EngSoc has proven its consistency as a operational base for years. Me and Elise had a lot of conversations with our colleagues at Central about how we're going to ratify, how we're going to do things. And yeah, kind of it ultimately came down to, I know EngSoc rules and policies where a lot of our alumni come from, go into engineering. It's consistently one of the top 3. I think last year, 30% of SHAD alumni that started university went into engineering of some kind. So there's a huge base in it, as well as I've met tons of people just walking around with my SHAD sweater. Like people know the organization. We want to expand it because it aligns with Smith Engineering, as well as EngSoc values so much of community, diversity, helping each other out, that sort of thing. That's really what we want to bring in here. SHAD is an organization that helps alumni introduces STEM and creative thinking and problem solving into their communities. And that's what we're looking forward to bringing here. I don't think I've missed. Yeah. And then, so yeah, just to kind of recap here, we want to be an NSHOC ratified club because we can't really do anything. You might have seen a couple clubs get started up, calling themselves clubs before they're ratified. They're doing that illegally. Technically, and Queens has also changed a bunch of their rules, so it's near impossible to do anything without ratification, which kind of sucks because we can't get members to consult on certain things until we're ratified. So it's kind of a chicken and egg scenario there. We're going for partnership over competition. So a big thing with this is we have a list of SHAD alumni from the high school program here at Queens that we definitely want to start with, but we're not limiting it there. Kind of once we've got these people in the door, we don't want this being an alumni club. We want everybody there. We want to expand and grow what it means to be a SHAD organization. And we want to be partnering with local groups. So we've already got a couple connections with teachers that we're hoping to set up workshops for. Nice thing about being a chapter organization with SHAD is they do all the police checks and stuff for us, and help us out that way. I was also talking to First Robotics about helping them at their competition that's coming up in a week. And unfortunately, timeline just didn't work out, getting police checks and stuff for us to kind of expand that way. And then just to be clear, because I figured I'd get a question or two, is we're not going for the Dean's donation. That's for design teams and other very specific engineering clubs. We just want, we just feel comfortable having a heart within engineering. I know how to navigate it. We're highly expecting a lot of our founding members to be engineers. And so that's where we're starting, that's where we're going from. And then I also like the idea of partnering with a lot of different engineering groups. So design teams that have commitments for outreach activities and stuff, partnering with them, with bringing in our expertise of running workshops, working with community groups that I think help them along. We help partner with Science West, First Robotics. Those are things we don't love. Again, we've just been in an awkward position and can't really talk to anybody until somebody at Queens says, yes, you're allowed to be operating here. Yeah. Any questions? Hi.
Michael Owens, 97 President. I'm a bit confused as to, you say this is a club for Queens students, but it's a summer program for high schoolers. What really is it?
Yes, sorry, I realized kind of halfway through we spent through that slide. Everybody's looking tired. It's a club that we're starting with alumni of the program, and so that program is an enrichment opportunity to bring high school students to a university campus, introduce them to kind of a lot of things similar to APSC 101. It's a lot more fun. But what we're doing now is trying to start a STEAM for Good movement. So the Nicole McBain Foundation, not sure if you've heard of them, they've got a big scholarship base at McGill. It is sponsoring this initiative to try to get more students involved in STEM at an earlier age, specifically targeting middle school students. Because that's when they notice a lot of students tend to drop out or shy away from pursuing STEM further, is that age group. So they brought us in to kind of the original idea of us over the summer was running workshops for those groups, and then last summer they're like, hey, let's set up more and try to do things to expand it at university campuses, kind of spreading the idea of STEM should be for everybody. People should know about opportunities like SHAD, like Beta Camp, like the Indigenous Games, there's a lot of different organizations that SHAD partners with that are super influential in young people's lives and can lead to great things, both at the high school level and sometimes even at the university level. There's New Sciences Canada has opportunities for first and second year undergraduate students that next nobody knows about. So that's a big thing of what we're trying to do. We've been given an awfully big mandate and told to narrow it down once we have club members and a club going. I tried to explain how awkward that is at Queens, and it just confused my colleagues at corporate more. So we're taking a very general approach and trying to fit it for Queens. I'm confident that we can do it. Again, there's just so many things we can't do right now, but I can't even book a room, right?
Yeah.
Like that's the biggest challenge, yeah.
So your main goal is to get current Queens students who are alumni of SHAD
that's where we want to start, and then kind of like a big bring a friend thing. So have them come out, do like one big meeting a month. We bring in a speaker. So we've got one guy we had lined up for October, but couldn't do from UNICEF, and so he did a whole bunch of stuff over in Syria during that crisis with water and water problem solving, a lot of leadership. So we want to bring him in for a night, kind of spark conversations about leadership. How can we be better leaders, be better problem solvers in our community? And from there, if we can get some of those club members together who are willing to kind of put in the extra commitment, because then we got to do police checks and stuff to bring them into schools and other community groups, or partner with pre-existing stuff, preferably that's already on campus, so that we can be involved and kind of spread and chat message that way. And yeah, so we've got 3 pillars that are in the Constitution. I'm not sure if you were able to get that a read. One is creating informative and learning communities. So that's our big events of kind of bringing somebody in with leadership, problem solving skills, and sharing their stories. Second one is creating a community of learners. So bringing in, making sure that we have lots of people across disciplines who understand what it may have been like kind of being that being highly involved in high school, and how that transition to university works, so that they can help their younger students in first and second year, that sort of thing. And then the last one is the outreach, which unfortunately, yeah, it's kind of the biggest one in the air, because the template we were given assumes next to no outreach currently being done by student groups at the university. But as you may know, Queens has quite a lot of that, so that's why we're looking for partnerships, not competing in that aspect.
Sophia Thompson, 75 Faculty Board Rep. So I know that typically when clubs have parent companies, we kind of set up boundaries with them to make sure that there's not jurisdiction from the parent company, particularly when there's financial aspects where someone's like specifically brought in by the parent company. How do you guys plan to keep that barrier and make sure that it doesn't infringe on Innistrad spirit?
So within our Constitution, it is clear that the after us, the executive is to be elected by the membership of the club, and Shad is to have no influence on that. We're trying to keep somewhat of a definitely for this year we're still operating as employees, just trying to alleviate some of that some of the workload on clubs and conferences. Just kind of we're already working with Chad on stuff like the budget and how our event's going to run and getting insurance and figuring all that stuff out. So kind of going to them, using their resources, especially for donations as well, because we report directly to the director of alumni relations, who has a list of everybody in the entire world that's ever been a Shad alumni, and we've already been in contact with a couple, which is nice that way. So yeah, it is there in the Constitution, as well as Shad is an organization that prides itself on young and student leadership. It would be against their interest and very uncharacteristic of that organization to step in unnecessarily. And with what is set up both by the Engineering Society and other rules at Queens, I highly suspect somebody here will step in for Shad essentially to catch his wind of what's going on. Yeah. Okay, Lily, yeah.
Why do you want to bank with Innistrad rather than just giving all your money to Shad? I'm just curious.
NSOC policy requires that we do it with NSOC if we are a ratified club. Shad Central.
They can bank with their faculty, but they don't really have faculty.
Yeah. Yeah. What Shad Central is perfectly happy for us to bank with them, but just to comply with that as well as handle year-over-year transition. Yeah. If that's an issue, I'm perfectly happy to see a friendly amendment to have us bank with.
It's not an issue, I was just curious.
Yep. No. Yep.
Can we also just do budget?
Yep. Yeah, so it's the only income there is $500. Again, I can't talk to anybody about fundraising and about the club. I love a lot of the key policies by the university have been changed twice. We tried to ask about Senate, what didn't happen. I'll get into that a little later. Yeah, so it's just a general fee for meetings, basic snacks. Again, I can't book a room yet, so I don't know. Most of the rooms I want to do, like 313, we can have pizza in there no matter what. But then if we wanted to do something like in the library, because that's just how availability works. We can't do pizza, we have to do like cookies and other smaller things. So that's why it's just fairly generic. And then the second section is just a general funding source for outreach activities. We bought most of the supplies over the summer, but we just wanted it in there, so it's ready to go. So some basic restock supplies. Most of our workshops are craft supplies, popsicle sticks, glue, that sort of thing, and then some snacks for our volunteers when we go out. Just stop by, grab a box of tickets or something on the way, just so they're not hungry. We can appreciate our volunteers. I think I saw Tanner first.
Tanner Warren, Director of Design. It states in your constitution that your co-president's term ends in April. Do you have people that you are thinking about sort of replacing you? Because I'm concerned about sort of if you two are gone, does the club fall apart?
I'm in a position to continue supporting the club. Both of us are in a position to continue supporting the next executive as past presidents. And actually that would probably be a good thing for us to add to our constitution once we have membership. Yeah, we met a very eager first or second year who's already been emailing props for us. You say the word shadow run, right? People get excited and eager. We've been watching our colleagues at McMaster, and yeah, they within a week of being ratified, they had like 6 people applying for exec positions. Like they had to make up exec positions just to get people in leadership roles that we're offering. We're now starting at a bit of an awkward part of the year, so I don't think we're going to have that much momentum. But yeah, I'm fairly confident that we'll be okay.
I know we saw a question from over here about you was a point of information. Sorry, it's not the hand one.
I'm pretty sure, correct me if I'm wrong, in policy, if a club head is getting ratified this year, they're allowed to do an extra term next year to like make sure nothing goes bad. Sorry, it's like not said adequately, but yeah, it covers that issue.
Tanner, you know me, I have trouble letting things go. I'll stick around and make sure it's done. Bennett.
Bennett's MREC president. I have a sort of clarification and inquiry. So clarification, STEAM, this is going to age me so much. Is STEAM STEM with arts?
Yes.
Okay.
So that is a big thing here. We want to be an all-encompassing arts club, and that's what we're trying to do, is trying to add. That's kind of our big offer, if you will, to the engineering side, is trying to bring the arts clubs and areas back in. We've had a couple of people interested in the histories and that sort of area, especially because that's Elise's background, is history and psych. But yeah.
And then my follow-up is there a plan, sort of even in your minds, that this might transition to also bring the summer program to Queens, or is that a little bit beyond your scope?
Yeah, so we've been fully authorized to begin those conversations. Shad has changed it since the last time that Queens has changed it since the last time that Shad was here. And so Shad basically needs some senior administrator to sign off as being the permanent contact point. They don't have to run the program, but they need to sit on the advisory board for it. And most of the senior leadership positions that we would normally have, that provost, vice principal teaching and learning, and something else, have all changed multiple. And that's the second year I mentioned earlier was actually what they were kind of helping us with about, was talking to a couple of profs, seeing if they'd be interested in running it. Yeah, I've talked to quite a few profs in my Senate journeys, and they all pretty much miss seeing the Shad students on campus because they're known for asking good questions and being inquisitive. So.
Are there any further questions about the presentation? We will have a motion on this later.
Elise has a meeting to get back to with corporate, but I'm still.
Amazing. Well, thank you both very much. I see no more questions, so thank you very much for the presentation. Chloe did have to head out, so I am doing the agenda and also talking, so forgive me if there's a bit of delay. All right. That was a great presentation. We're now going to move into new business, starting with motion 3. Motion 3. Whereas there will be an NSHOP general election in January, and whereas this election should have rules Be it resolved that council approves the election rules and guidelines seen in Appendix General Elections Nomination and Campaign Rules 2025. Moved by Alex, am I doing this right, Blair? Seconded by Owen, how am I supposed to know? Kathy Mercy. I'll pull up the general election rules that we'd like to have an opening from.
Hi, Alex Blair, Chief Returning Officer. The campaign and nomination rules for the upcoming 2025 Edgestock general elections are shown on screen. They are mostly the same from last year. There was only a few minor tweaks that we made, one of which is just in the formatting of it, of the penalties that will be handed out have now all been included and put in Section 8 just to make it a little easier for potential candidates to read and to make it a bit more clear on what infraction will be punished with what penalty. We've also added a little bit of language talking about group chats. So that would be your discipline group chat or the year group chats I believe exist, and how it works with those, because there was a lot of debate last year on whether it should be allowed or not. And so we've added in that, and everything else has pretty much remained unchanged.
Okay. Thank you very much for the opening. We'll now move into debate. Is there any questions on the motion? Yes,
Ben Zimmer, EC President, and last year's Chief Returning Officer. I wanted to kind of bring forward a point that I was thinking of based on the changes to the rules, specifically with the list of violations, sort of like punishment list, so to say. One thing that would concern me would be a candidate strategically breaking a rule based on a certain punishment. Because there are some rules that are more detriment than others. And we may, if we see how candidates have a list, it has to be this. Like if it's just one infraction, maybe you can have a list of multiple. But if it's just one, people might strategically break rules knowing what the ramifications are. Like I know one of them is like 8 hours of campaigning. So say if the candidate says, oh, I'm gonna go campaign at Ritual, and then gets suspended for 8 hours on Saturday. Like people can do that strategically. So I want to ask maybe, thought about that, your opinion on that sort of idea. My thought was possibly having at least 2 options per rule to make it so it's not as like concrete and can be loophole. But I thought I would put that in there.
Alex Blair, Chief Returning Officer. I definitely agree with that point. The idea of having a clear-cut penalty for each infraction was to make it so that if in the event that somebody does break a rule, there can't be any sort of bias from the elections committee in deciding what's initially dealt as a penalty. I definitely agree that there could be someone trying to strategically break rules here and there, and so it may be the solution may just be to add further penalties initially. So it's a combination of 2, or it's for example like 8.2.1 through 8.2.5 inclusive. That way, if but then it puts a bit more on the onus of the elections committee to make an unbiased decision. The idea was just that for an initial penalty, there's a very clear-cut and unbiased penalty. But I definitely do see your point. So we could make a change to where it's 8.2.5 along with 8.2.2, which is one of the advertising that there was an infraction and a penalty dealt out, and that could try to deter people from strategically breaking rules and then having the penalty not really affect them too much.
Sophia Christensen, Section 5 Faculty Board Rep. We could also consider giving more jurisdiction for changing when things take effect. So, for example, with the 8 hours from advertising report, you could have it take effect instead of like on a weekday where it's more relevant, and maybe leave that up to the elections committee.
How do we enforce that at the end of the election period? Like how do we like stop someone from campaigning at the end of the campaign period?
Is there a direct response?
Yeah, so that would be up to the discretion of the elections committee. There is, I believe, somewhere in there that says if there's no time left in the campaign, then it will switch to another penalty. I think if not, then that is something we should add, I agree. Because yes, that 8 hours of campaign halt, if it happens at the end of the campaigning period, that would be the kind of thing where, well, there's effectively no penalty then if it ends. So I agree with you that we should add some more discretion. The idea was to make it very clear cut what would happen from a fairness and unbiased standpoint. so that if there were, let's say, multiple candidates who break rules, there was no sort of preferential treatment that could be argued, and it makes the whole process a lot easier. And then for obviously repeat infractions, it becomes a little more complicated, and that's when it should be up to the discretion of the elections committee. But there definitely should be language in there talking about how in extenuating circumstances where a penalty like that may occur, where it would get overwritten because the campaign period ends, the elections committee should have discretion. I do agree.
I think I saw this one first, but you're on the.
Is it the director of HR? I was just wondering, you said the centralized campaign material being public, but it doesn't say where, so I was just wondering where how it goes.
I do believe that you're correct. It doesn't actually say where it would go. That would be the kind of thing that we could make some sort of Instagram post about, or send out in an email to all members of the engineering society who have a vote, and then they would have access to that centralized one directly.
Absolutely, so we can take that and then as friendly, and we'll say that we will add that to the document.
Connor Rosie, ERB Chair. On the previous topic discussing about end of campaign rules and malicious infractions, Rule 8.3 does specifically state that CEO at their discretion has power with malicious intent to act in a more harsh manner, which I believe covers what we're talking about in the manner of somebody purposely, which covers what I believe we're discussing in the manner of somebody purposely campaigning at the end where they couldn't receive the full force of a punishment. It's also worth noting that all of this is subject to appeal by any candidate. So if there is a point where we feel that the elections committee has made a wrong call, that is an appeal by the candidate. So I think what we have is covered by 8.3.
Ian Schaefer, Director of Internal Processes. Just by the reading of 8.3, just to get into the really nitty-gritty, could the CEO apply? Because it says may disqualify a candidate. Would they be allowed to apply a penalty somewhere between the one that we're asking for and disqualify? Because the way I read it, they can't really increase punishment. It's either you get what's on the board or you disqualify them. Is there some sort of wording we can change there? Or is that just me misinterpreting what's read?
Sorry, do I need to see my name again? Sorry.
Direct response.
You can say direct response.
Okay, direct response. Okay, so I do agree. We can take that as friendly and simply add in that the CEO can disqualify or increase magnitude of any of 8.2 along with the disqualification just for malicious intent.
Oh, go ahead.
Point of information, I remember last year, as Denver EC president, I remember last year we passed the motion of the election rules with like a condition that the changes were brought to the next council, which I know is during the nomination period. And since this is all like campaign stuff, just so people know, like if we're to pass today's motion without these changes, that was something that's been done in the past, so for precedent purposes, I want to make that note.
Izzy, the director of HR. I just had a question related to voting. I know last year there was an issue with students voting. It just wasn't working. I was wondering if that had been fixed this year.
That is not something, I think that would be a question for Chloe.
Yeah, that is not covered under the nomination.
Direct response, Connor Rosie, ERB Chair, and last year's CEO. That was an issue on the side of the AMS and dealing with simply voting. That's not something that MSOC could control. And we also do have our previous Director of Governance as the CEO for the AMS, so it shouldn't be an issue this year.
And it's also not regulated.
Yeah.
Sophia Thurston, Section 5 yeah, I also talked with the AMS CEO from last year, and we theoretically found the problem and have solved it ideally.
And that is wonderful, but again, this is not tied to this motion.
Is possible to go to 4.5? Five. Yeah, keep going up. Keep going up. Keep going up. Yeah, down a little. I think those are the wrong gates.
That says 2024.
That is correct.
Oh, yep.
We'll take that as family and. Are there any further questions or debate on the motion?
Andrew Patton, Vice President of Finance Administration. You mentioned that there was changes to, like group chats and like here. Can you just expand on what the changes were?
Yep. If you could go to 4.30, please. So the main change is that we are allowing candidates to make posts in those group chats. I think it's fruitless to try and just completely ban it. But it's under the stipulation that they are only attaching the link to that centralized OneDrive that will contain the campaign material of all candidates. So you can't specifically endorse yourself in these group chats, but you can just endorse that there is an election going on. I also believe that that should say 6.15 and not 6.15.
Noah Doshna-Fretz, Director of Communications. I see you have the photography, videography consent form linked in your document. Is that going to be available to your candidates elsewhere as well? Because I don't think they can actually access it through this document.
Yeah, that's definitely something that we can attach along with the nomination form and the campaign rules, just as a separate document in case it doesn't link correctly.
Perfect. Yeah, just make sure those get back to me as well.
Yep.
Thanks.
Sorry, did you say that? Michael Williams, IC7 President. Does that say, sorry, you said that in 4.30, you can't campaign for yourself, you can only provide the link?
Yes, so if you look in 6.15, there will be a centralized OneDrive containing campaign material from every candidate. Within the group chats, you are only allowed to post the link to that collective OneDrive.
Because I think 4.30 says that one is allowed to campaign as long as they also provide the link.
It says, provided that the candidate provides the link to the centralized campaign material of all candidates and no other forms of media. So that's the only thing that they're allowed to post in the group chat, is that link.
I saw it over here for a second.
Jennifer, but, so they can't provide more media, but could they not be like, go vote for me, here's the link to all the platforms? There's no other media, but you are endorsing yourself.
That is true.
Is that
allowed?
The intent is that you are only allowed to say, I am running in the Ashlock general elections, here is a link to the collective campaign material. So I agree the language should be changed to say that there should be no bias towards yourself and you can only provide that.
Okay.
Is there any other debate on the motion?
Andrew Patton, Vice President of Finance Administration. Last year there was a neutral party list, I believe is what they called it, created. I know there were some issues we ran into last year just with people who were on the list being notified that they are on such list. Is there a plan this year to notify all the people on the list?
We're going to collect a mailing list of all those emails that are collected in the list. I believe it's 4 million. Yeah, there. So all of the emails of all these people will be collected, and we will send out emails to their work email, if you call it that, and then that way they will all be properly notified about being a neutral party in the election.
Yes.
Madam Temporary EC President, clarification on this actually. Is the neutral party this year would be just current members of these positions or current and past? Because I know that was a debate last year as well.
That is a good point. It should just be the current members because they are currently in a position and therefore choose that position. If you're no longer in a position and are just a general member of the engineering society, I don't see a reason why you need to be a neutral party.
Point of order, can we, as Connor was at ERB chair, we should realistically have somebody up there with the speaker helping with the computer. Can we nominate someone to please help with that?
Assistant speaker.
Pardon?
Deputy speaker?
Yeah.
Come on, we're good.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Don't bite the bullet, John. Quack, 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 quack. President, was about people, like, I think the main concern last year was about people who previously held roles who might sort of be like, oh, you know, I was president last year and I think this person's the best candidate, which I do still think gives them a bit more weight. Is the intent with this that you as a general member can endorse people, but you can't be throwing around your position? Like, because I don't know, to me personally, I feel like, for example, if Aiden were still on campus, him being like, oh, I was president last year and I think this person is the best candidate, would probably carry more weight than it should as a general member. So I'm just curious, like, I don't know, I'd be hesitant to limit it strictly to current position holders. Is my comment.
I see your point. I agree. It's just logistically implementing that, because with the people who are currently in these positions, it's very easy to just send an email to president, right? And then guarantee that that person did receive it. But when tracking down people's net IDs and whatnot, it could get a little fishy. But I do definitely agree. So that could be something that we add to. I believe it mentions that anyone who has currently or previously held a position in bylaw 3.H, we could change that to say previously cannot, or has previously held it, cannot leverage their position, but can like endorse.
Yeah, I can just direct response to this. I even feel like this, like the actually having to send them an email being like, hey, you're on a neutral parties list is, I agree logistically tracking down everyone's personal emails is going to be a nightmare. But I think they have all received this notice the previous year that they were on the neutral parties list, so I actually don't think it's unreasonable to just hold them to the standard of the same, you know what I mean, like expect them to behave as if they know they're on it, they should, because they were previous year or whatever they hold the role. Like, just my take, but yeah.
For sure, there's a point here, and then if you put your placard up, you're on my list.
Point of information, we have all of their personal emails and like school emails on master funding list for like the last 7 years.
Thank you for the point of information. You were the next person on my list for placard.
James Oswald, Science Teacher President. Just wondering, it doesn't look like heads of clubs or design teams are on that list. Is that intentional?
This list is mostly based on what was done in previous years. I think a head of a club doesn't necessarily have the same sort of like outreach or authority that maybe some of the other people on this list do, especially when we're looking at like members of the executive and like members of, you know, FC and whatnot. I think there definitely is an argument for including them, but I don't know if they necessarily have the same level of reach that we'd be concerned with when looking at like the names on this list.
Direct response, I would say that they have like more reach than like service head managers and assistant managers.
That's your point.
Oh, there's a point.
Point of information, Tenor One Director of Design. I would argue that for certain design team captains, they oversee over 100 people. So I'd say that's a large amount comparatively to, for example, like Clark Head Manager only oversees about 50 people.
I definitely agree with that. That can be added in, so that would be heads and execs of design teams then. Do design teams have executive captains and executive members of design teams then? That can be added to that list as well.
We got a lot of placards up, but there are quite a few people on my list. The next person on my list is Michael.
Hi, okay, so now I have 2 things to say. Michael Logan, Second Vice President. Jack, this is more touching on what you said. I just wanted, like you were just saying, like you're working on the matter, and I just like feel that if we were, okay, wait, now there's a lot of things in my head right now. Wait, if we were to contact past leaders, in my interpretation of that portion of the document is just that you can't use the resources that come with the position you have to actively promote someone else, right? And I think that, to me, was the purpose behind it, and that I agree with. But if we start going after everyone who's ever had one of these positions, we start getting to like hundreds of people, and that kind of just limits the ability of the word to get out about the election and people to actually have a real conversation about how they feel about things. And I think that kind of goes against like the whole NSHOC bubble thing and like everything that that people put a lot of resource and time to kind of like pop, and that just like more confines it, because it's suddenly someone's like, well, I have no idea what this is about, but no one will tell me, so I'm just not gonna vote, right? And then on top of that, a past member, if someone were to weigh their opinion higher, that's their choice, right? They don't actively have any resources. Let's say like the director of communication. They can email everyone at Eng from their official email, and that to me, obviously, is an abuse of power, but someone who used to be, let's say, the vice president of Psi 25, right? If I'm just a member at large and I value their opinion higher than, let's say, another member at large, that's my choice as that member at large. It's not like they have the resources to come after more people and get their message out more than just a normal member at large, if that makes sense. And then now to touch on what Jane said about, what'd you say again, what was it?
Exact clubs, like clubs and teams and conferences.
Oh, yeah. I just had to say my opinion on this too. Actually, no. I'm so confused about that one.
All right, thank you very much. The next person on my list is ERB Chair.
Okay, ERB Chair Connor Bosey. The first thing I want to touch on is the fact that the neutral parties list is reflected in our bylaws for a specific reason, and if my interpretation of the bylaws is correct, the reason is not the amount of people they can contact. The reason that they're all in there is more of the layers of separation they have away from the people that are actively in these roles, right? We can talk all day about how many people the design team oversees, but at the end of the day, they pretty much only interact with Tanner for purposes of interacting with NSOC unless they have to do finances or things like that. But even then, it's kind of it's more of a veil, if you will. Almost everyone on this list, with the exception of your executives and discipline club presidents, deal in some way directly with the active ED team, and even then, there are your executives and discipline club presidents in this room right now. And they actively see what the current executive and what the current senators are doing, and can then take into account, hey, seeing what they're doing, seeing what their job is, this is why my opinion matters on this. I also think we're getting hung up on the nature of what an endorsement is. If somebody were to come to me and ask about the election as the ERB chair, my position on it would be to say, here are the candidates that are running, here are all their platforms. I would not provide any further information on saying, I think this sucks, this goes against bylaw, this is not what we want to do, but I could provide that information. So if our worry is that we're bubbling up in a sense by trying to stop people from talking about the election, that's not the goal of this. The goal of this is more so to prevent somebody from saying, hey, I know this, this, and this, and for this reason, I am choosing this candidate. That is the spirit of this, and I think that's why we have this list.
Thank you very much. The next
Direct
person.
response.
Yep.
I hear what you're saying, but in my opinion, a past, like Vice President 75 doesn't necessarily actively know or could actively have an opinion on how people are running the roles that they are right now. Because they're not in this room unless they're, once again, on this list.
Direct response, kind of as your chair, but they were in this room is the point. It's the understanding that they know the role and they know what is being promised and what can be delivered, what couldn't be delivered with current states. It's more of an understanding of the general members at large aren't going to take the time to learn the inner workings of everything, and nor should we expect them to. It's a lot. But at large, we should expect them to be able to trust their campaign promises, and it is not the goal of anybody here to undermine somebody for that, which an endorsement would effectively do.
I think I saw a point over here.
Point of information by the science sir. I just wanted to question, was it taken as a friendly change to the agenda that design team executives are going to be added to the list or not?
It was not.
It was not.
Thank you very much. All right, the next person on my list is Senator Brooke. Sure, sounds good. Next we have Mr. Gibbons.
Yeah, there's some slight back to the board rep. One, just on the logistics of contacting other people, there are master contact lists that are maintained every year that have the net IDs of people previously in those positions. Just so that's you can go email the last 4 years or whatever relatively easily. Additionally, I do feel like as an old BPSA, I in particular have a lot of influence with being able to tell people, yeah, I think this person should be exempt. Like I feel that aspect, and instead of choosing to have a voice on that, I would instead choose to say there's an election going on here, how to act as a candidate. Here's how to vote, and that's all I would leave it as, because I do feel like I could realistically sway people. Additionally, from my term as VPSA, I gained like several hundred followers on Instagram, and even if I just posted anything on my personal account, it would reach a lot more people than I would have if I didn't have the position beforehand.
Thank you very much. The next person on my list is President Shaw of Apple.
I don't want to.
All right. The next person on my list is Ronaldo. All right. Next person on my list is Director Allen. All right. Next person on my list is Director Keith.
Busy with the Director of Human Resources. Just as a consideration, I think it might be valuable to consider a different list for people that previously held the position. I do see the value in not having the executive, in having previous executive on the neutral parties list, but I don't see the value of all of the positions in the current state being on the neutral parties list for previous years. So just as something to consider.
Jack, I'll get used to it, guys, but for now I'm fine. Okay, so can I move then that we maybe add previous executive senators FC to the neutral parties list? Or does anyone else feel like there's other roles that previous directors?
Yes.
I would second that motion, Controversy Free Chair. I would say everything from 1 to 6, realistically.
Yeah.
And you think at 9?
Yeah.
Yeah, and 9. I agree. Okay, 1 to 6 and 9.
I have a, sorry, can you remind Director of Retail Services? I just have a question, maybe I'm missing something, but, like, not that I would, but next year when I'm not a director, and say I didn't have any other position, what punishment, like, am I being faced with for posting that someone, like, how are you gonna maintain that people don't do it? Because why would I care what them do in society? Like, I do, but you know what I'm saying?
Director Watts, Alex Blair, CRO. There is, I believe in section 6, there's something that says that the candidate who is being endorsed must contact that person and ask them to take it down. If they don't take it down, then the candidate can face penalty unless they provide proof that they actually have reached out and asked them. If not, then I believe it falls under, for that person who has previously held a position under 3.H, I believe it's a non-academic misconduct. No, sorry. I'm mistaken on that. It's, there is something.
All right, so
we're not going to issue. It's a little bit, I'll find this, the person.
Yes. This is a direct response. Do bad things. And I think, to a certain extent, there's always going to be the ability for you to just completely ignore engineering society because we're a student organization that doesn't actually have jurisdiction on campus for a lot of stuff like that. But that being said, I think if you're, you're trying to endorse your buddy and you're aware that you doing that will actually harm their campaign, I think that's a pretty good disincentive. Yeah, I'm not really, I think it did come up last year and was addressed without any major problems, so.
there was a motion being made to add a second list of people who in the past have held positions. In my list, I have people from 1 to 6 and 9 on our list of currently not allowed to endorse. We can take that motion as friendly if you'd like to add that.
Yeah.
All right. I mean, you also. Yep.
I just have a question about it. So we're saying, James Husser, our South East president, we're saying that former members of FC are on that list as well. So that includes lower, not chief rec OC. I feel like that's you're going a bit too deep, because a lot of the people that, like, I mean, I don't think I could name anyone on the Psi 27 FC other than those who are taking on other positions than AmSocs, like, do we? No, I said other than those. I know. I said other than those who have taken on other positions. So, like, I don't think those people should not be allowed to endorse a candidate.
Yeah, I see point.
Yeah, point of information, kind of was the ERB chair. This conversation was had last year, and it doesn't matter for you as a Psi 26. I don't think I would care if you know the current FC that is not being allowed to endorse candidates, but you will always know the FC who you were when you were a fraud, and that was the understanding of that, right? Like for you, that'd be 22, FC 22. So like, if any one of those members said to you, "Hey, I think I should do that," I mean, you might feel a little bit of sway, which is why we included that.
Yeah, like not every.
Point of personal leverage.
Would you like? No. Your own amendments first.
Direct response to James. Ravel Party's 97 MSWeb. Last year when I started at FC, I had like 100 followers on Instagram. By the time I ended it, I ended up with around 700, and that wouldn't have happened without FC. So I had a huge boost in the voice I can have within the community, surely because I held on to the question, and that is still a big enough number to make an impact. So I believe I should not have I should stay as political party, or any FC should.
Next on my list is Senator Rowe.
Senator Rowe, Senator, I think purely also, some first years don't necessarily see their FCs, but I think most importantly the precs who interact with trainings and everything will definitely see FCs, and since there was a power dynamic there for a little bit, I don't think that FCs don't necessarily have as well.
Next on my list is Vice
Lily Scott, Vice President of Operations. I think regardless if you're on FC, if you're a director, whatever, if you have any sort of larger NSHTOC role, you become the NSHTOC person to anyone who's not in NSHTOC. So you may not be able to name Psi 27 on FC, but any Psi 27 who knows someone on FC might not know exactly what they do, but they sure know them as that NSHTOC person. Same goes for any visible position, and being that NSHTOC person in any group, whether that's your friend group, whether that's like your school group, or in your discipline, that carries some weight. If you just say like, oh, my friend is running, vote for this person, people are gonna go, well, the NSHTOC person told me to vote for them, so I'm gonna vote for them. Not great, you want people to make informed decisions, so I think regardless if the 26 is a no 27, 27s are gonna go 27s, 28s are gonna go 27s, and Mishravis are gonna go responsibly and not trying to use our influence to sway people just because we're trying to look at it, or because we have some other interest that is necessarily fair.
Can I direct response to that? Okay, James Osbar, Section Suspended. Even before I took on this position, I was known as the NSOC person within my group. So like before I was elected for Section Suspended, I wouldn't have been on this list. But even in that case, I still would have had that same sway within my friend group that you're talking about. So I think we're going a bit too low here, and we're focusing, like we're restricting too many people to not being able to endorse than we should.
Can I direct response to that? FC is very much a very, very visible role. They plan all of orientation week. They roll a lot of responsibility. Like I said, a lot of visibility. I think that they in particular are very much not just like the NSHTOC friend, but they're the NSHTOC friend. The same way, like back when I became a director, I became the NSHTOC person in my friend group. So you may be known as an NSHTOC person, but we can specifically pin down who is definitely going to be known as an NSHTOC person versus who because I'm, potential exec, whatever. But for roles that we know for sure are going to be visible and carry some sway and are almost absolutely going to cause someone to be known as the end stock person in their circle, I think that we should make sure that they're not using that to sway people into voting in the way that they're voting, solely because like they're friends with a candidate or they don't like another candidate or whatever.
Is there another direct response to that?
Yeah, so like, I think Frex are far more visible than FC, and we should, by that logic, that we should restrict the visible members. We should restrict all Frex and not be able to talk about that. Like, I don't think that should be done, but by the logic we're going with right now, I think that's the current.
There's a lot going on right now. We're gonna go in order, and I've added you to my list. Go ahead.
Just so you can define what I mean by visible, I don't mean like you're literally like I can see you. I mean visible more that your name is out there, your face is out there. People can put a face to your name and know specifically this person did whatever in shop. Their name's on their shirt. Their faces and their names are on Instagram. They present things to Frex. They train Frex. They host events for Frex. FC members also have records that they are in charge of. That's what I mean by visible. I don't mean that when I was a Frex, I was visible because I was bright purple and my hair was like this. Sure, you could see me, but who knew who I was, and I didn't have any sway. But FC, you know what they look like, you know their faces, you see them around, you know what amazing work they did, and they're not just like literally physically visible, but they have a presence, is what I meant by visible in what I said.
Sorry, can I do a response again? Like, I don't mean that they're like bright and purple. I mean that like you oversaw people and that there was there was a position of power, and I think the concern here is that we have people in position of power endorsing. And what my concern with what's being proposed is that we're like FC is far less of you oversee far less people and you're far less visible than a Frex. So for example, if you're a Frex and you go into your group chat, you say, hey guys, go vote for this candidate. By the current laws, that is allowed because it's an endorsement. But if you're an FC, that the reach you would have is far less.
So I feel a bit that debate is getting circular on this topic, so we're going to move further down in my list. Great. Next on my list is President Dimmer.
My point was, that's ever recent president, my point was to speak to the speaker that I believe it was also getting circular.
All right. You've been on my list for a while. All right. Next up, I have Director Sal.
There's no point. It's just gonna go back into the same conversation.
Sounds good. Next is David.
Can I motion to call the question?
All right. Great. So this means we go right into voting on the motion.
Procedural motion to call the question.
Yeah. We need to vote for yes, we're voting now. And then.
Okay. I misread that section in bylaw. All right. So we're going to vote now on whether we're going to move directly to voting or keep debating on this. All right. Sounds good. So can I see votes for the motion to move directly to voting?
Can we clarify what parts of that debate will be baked in?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I think
So-
people got rid of lost their
I have an ongoing list of the friendly amendments we've made to the nomination and campaign rules. I'll read them out for you now. Number 1 is where the campaign is getting moved to. So we thought we'd talk about the Instagram group chats and the Instagram posts. Then we had 8.3, the CEO can increase in magnitude the level of punishment if it was made maliciously. Then we have, there was a date change that was made. There was a cross-referencing link change that was made. The comms link and sending out the communication form for the
Consent form.
consent form. Thank you very much. And when we talked about 4.3, when talking in group chats, instead of you're not allowed to post additional media, you are just allowed to say, I'm running, here's the link to all of the campaigns, instead of saying, I'm running, vote for me, also here's the link. Did not do that. And then we added a second list of neutral parties who must be neutral, and that included 1 through 6 and 9 of the current neutral parties. So we can pull that up, which is in 4.13. And those are the list of friendly amendments you like that noted in the minutes? Can I see any abstentions? Would you like that noted? Would you like that noted? All right, sure. We're gonna move directly into voting on motion 3. So, motion 3, would you mind pulling up the questions?
Yeah,
Thank you very much. Is there a conclusion from our members?
No.
We will now move directly into it. So, motion 3. It is a Word document, yeah. All around flash. All right. Motion 3. Whereas there will be an NSOC general election in January, and whereas this election should have rules, be it resolved that Council approves the election rules and guidelines as seen in Appendix General Election Nomination and Campaign Rules 2025, with the amendments that we have made. Moved by Alex Blair, seconded by Owen Kazimierski. Can I see votes for the motion, please? Thank you very much. Can I see votes against the motion? Would you like that noted in the minutes? Are there any abstentions on the motion? Motion 3 passes. All right, we're going to move on to motion 4. Motion 4, whereas council made valid points over concerns for investigating the executive when an ERB hasn't been properly hired, and whereas I've written a mountain of SOPs that I'd love to help my transition my lower through, be it resolved that council approve of the changes to bylaw 15 as seen in appendix, just the board for me, thanks. Moved by Connor, somehow the ERB has turned into a restaurant at Council Bozy, seconded by Oliver, better than all those bed jokes you made 2 years ago, Lynn. Is there an opening from either of our voters?
Connor Wilson, ERB Chair. Okay, so earlier in the semester, I brought changes to council to talk about what to do when there's a grievance and no ERB. Since then, we've dealt with a bunch of things, including director hiring. So this is a 2-part motion. There's the first one's bylaw, the second part's policy. Bylaw changes specifically, if you scroll down to, I believe it's section C. Oh no, it's B, it's right there, beautiful. So the major things that I changed are when deputy chair is hired. So deputy chair is not going to be hired at the same time as chair, as opposed to general members. I also moved up general member hiring so that some of them are hired during the spring, and then we leave some hiring open in the fall so that we can still get some first years on the ERB. And the reason that was done was originally the plan was to have the rector still involved in deputy chair and chair hiring. And as you'll hear in my motion in a second, that's no longer the case. But we'll get to that when we get to the policy, because that's laid out in hiring policy of who's on that panel instead. Oh, the other thing that I changed in here is on the inside of ERB, it mentioned that the chair was only an ex officio member of the board. I changed it so that in the event of an investigation where the deputy chair is acting as the chair effectively gets the deputy chair's vote, and the deputy chair is the one that acts as the ex officio member of the board, considering they're the one that chaired the investigation. That's all that's changed. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you for the opening. Is there any debate on motion 4?
Lucas Baylog, Engineering Center. We've had some chats, so I'm suspecting my amendment is going to be seen as friendly. But kind of the whole
Point of information, Connor was debate chat's the next motion.
Oh, man, okay.
Yeah, that's
yeah, nice. Thank you, Connor.
Sounds good. Is there any more debate on motion 4? Seeing none. Is there a conclusion from our openers?
Nope.
Alright, sounds good. Now this is a bylaw change, so we will see this motion again in the winter, in January. Alright, motion 4. Whereas council made valid points over concerns for investigating the executive when an ERB hasn't been properly hired, and whereas I've written a mountain of SOPs that I'd love to help transition my lower through, be it resolved that council approves of the changes to bylaw 15 as seen in appendix, just the board for me, thanks. Moved by Connor Bozy, seconded by Oliver Lynn. Can I see votes for the motion, please? Thank you very much. Can I see votes against the motion? Are there any abstentions? All right, motion 4 passes. Motion 5. Whereas the rector doesn't really get involved in hiring of other faculty societies, and whereas the changes in ERB hiring made certain old passages irrelevant, be it resolved that council approves of the changes to the policy sections gamma and epsilon as seen in appendices, spell ERB without the rector, and can I order an ERB whole with the board? Moved by Connor, I can make food and bring it to next ERB meeting, Bozy. Seconded by Oliver. Nope, pretty sure it would taste like a board then. Lynn, is there an opening from either of our movers?
Connor Rosa, ERB Chair. Hi, me again. So this one, the policy section, we don't need to open it. It's the one that I brought earlier in the semester. Originally, the appendix, Can I order an ERB, hold the board, was titled, Can I order an ERB, hold the ERB. All I've done in that one is I've removed the 2 lines, I believe it was like 8.4 dot something, but I removed the 2 lines about what to do when there is no ERB for investigation, because now that we're doing ERB hiring earlier and it's mandated in the spring, as long with the deputy chair and then some general members, there will never be a point where there is no ERB, whether that be the current ERB or the incoming ERB, to tackle an issue as it comes up. So that's no longer relevant. The main changes to this, to the policy is in the appendix, spell ERB without the rector, which is this one. So this just changes who is listed into overseeing ERB hiring. Considering we're hiring chair at the same time as deputy chair now, they are the 2 that are on the panel replacing rector. So deputy chair replaces rector for that panel, and then they hire the rest of the general members together along with the president and a delegate of the department. And then what's currently in there is that we changed the rector to be the vice president of student affairs, and I suspect that Senator Bailiff has something to say about that, so thank you.
Thank you very much for the opening. Is there any debate on the motion? Yes, Senator Bailiff?
Senator Lucas Bailiff, Engineering Center. We had a couple conversations about this and kind of agreed that it didn't really make sense to add an executive to the board when the whole point of this was trying to figure out a way of how do we investigate the executive when we don't have a board. And just seeing as the VPSA is usually the one that oversees a lot of different positions that might end up getting ERB complaints, it doesn't totally make sense to have that. So my suggestion here is to add the senators, add a senator to replace the rector, given that the idea of the rector was someone who was elected in trust by university students and doesn't really have any direct affiliation with the working operations of the engineering society just the same way as the senators do, as well as senators are trained in and understand governance and review board processes as they sit on the university appeals board for academic misconduct.
Is there a response to that?
Direct response, Connor Rosa, ERB Chair. The reason why I asked Lucas to make that, to make the recommendation for a motion or just to bring up a debate was so that we could allow council to have a debate on who we believe is the best person to be in there. So I'd like to open the floor to debate by council to see if anybody else feels that they agree with that, if they have another person in mind, or what the kind of general feeling of council is. Hence the reason why I did not make that amendment at the beginning.
Yes.
Sophia Thurston, 75 Active Board Rep. I didn't think of far ahead for an alternative suggestion. I would like to point out that senators were elected, didn't do anything like 2 years ago. So, and for like 3 years straight, it was awful. Yeah.
As MRDC president, I know this isn't like a typical thing MSHLAC does, but given kind of the sort of who investigates who, power dynamics, is there a problem with having the outgoing ERB chair on this debate, or on this hire panel?
Yeah, direct response, Connor Rosa, ERB Chair. Technically, the only issue that I see with having the outgoing ERB chair on it is if there is an issue with the ERB chair hiring itself, that would go to the current ERB. So then you'd be hiring an ERB chair that would then get ERB'd by an incoming potential ERB chair and then have to investigate themselves, which makes it very difficult. Yeah, which is why like with point H there, if there was an issue with that hiring, it is the incoming deputy chair and the incoming chair. So if I was still sitting on it and my lowers had an issue with hiring their general members in the spring, then I would deal with that. But obviously there's some level of inception here.
For sure. The next person on my list is President Walker.
Jack Quack Walker. Exhausting. I see where you're coming. I see where Luke is coming from with the sort of the neutral, sort of a slightly external body who's got kind of training on governance and on best practices for neutrality and stuff. My concern of adding senator to this is that senator is not strictly speaking an engineering society role. It's a role that exists within the university. So Lucas is at Senate representing engineering students and is on our council reporting about Senate. But it's not strictly speaking an engineering society role, and so I do have some concerns about, and I think the same reason we had concerns about why is the rector hiring a whole engineering society. And I think President and BPSA, which I believe is the current version of this motion?
Yes.
Yeah. President and BPSA both sit, both obviously are going to be very well versed in our governance, and both sit on the faculty operations committee. So actually, me and Mo have both done a whole bunch of neutrality training, bias prevention stuff through that lens. So I do think that President and BPSA is probably the best option and probably the most consistent with how we just do our hiring and how our hiring structure is done in terms of being kind of top down from the executive. But yeah, I guess the main point is I think Senator's a bit weird because he's not an EdgeSoc role. And I guess also just as a point of information, me and Mo both have done a bunch of neutrality training through Operations Committee, which looks at academic, scholarship awarding, requirements to withdraw for students who are on academic probation. So some pretty kind of high profile stuff that's in a very similar, level. It's confidential stuff that requires neutrality. So me and Mo are familiar with that as well, and President BPSA will be.
I see a point on this.
Jenny Bro, junior senator. Student senators do sit. What is it called again?
USAB?
Yeah. Student senators do sit on USABs, which is when there's academic misconduct.
Yeah.
Students as well. So there's also exposure.
Yeah.
All right, the next person on my list is Pranav Elmani.
Yes, Pranav Elmani, scientist on MSF. In the nature of talking about possible replacements for BPSA, what about the ex officio member on ERB for the past year? They already have experience with the board. They already have experience with the board. They know the operations of the board. Why wouldn't they also be a good candidate for hiring?
So, direct response, Connor Rosie, ERB chair. The two members that are ex officio on ERB, one of them is society officer, which if the society officer is in the room with us, give a shout. Awesome. There we go. Okay. And then the second member is Director of Human Resources, which Director McKee can correct me if I'm wrong. The nature of DOHR hiring gets a little weird, correct?
Yeah, direct response is easy. Yeah, as DOHR, you're not supposed to sit on any hiring committees other than your own deputies and SPCR because you oversee hiring policies, so it gets a little weird.
Yeah. So if I could continue on, Connor was your chair. I think that is the one issue with DOHR. I think the follow-up issue with society officer is that it is a paid position underneath a director who is underneath an executive, which just creates a lot of, I think, a lot more of a kind of this, the web that we're worried about of being like, hey, the person that hired me, I'm going to have to investigate, is what we're worried about here and is why this discussion is happening. And I think that the lower down we go with the person in the chain who is hiring the chair, the more we're going to have to worry about that, if that makes sense. For at least for the ex officio members on the current ERB.
Sure. The next person on my list is
Sophia Anderson, 95 Active Board Rep. Might I suggest, sorry to get me word here, but the speaker, because their elected position, sure they work under director, but there is an original statement of universal acceptance. They also are supposed to practice neutrality in terms of how council operates, so they're already familiar in that scope. And I feel like it's sort of removed from the inner workings of what the ERB might over this. Thought I'd put that out there.
Okay, direct response kind of was in your chair. That could work. I think the caveat, if we made it chief electoral officer, is that, oh, this is going to be weird, because the one thing is that you're going to end up with a point where if there is, we were just talking about election rules for the past like 45 minutes. If there is an issue with an election rules and a ruling from the CEO, it goes back to ERB. So you kind of get this Ouroboros back on yourself. And if we're asking CEO to sit on the hiring panel for both the chair and the deputy chair, there's not an effective chair position on the ERB who could chair an investigation into an appeal based on a candidate's issue with elections. You could basically say like, hey, one of these general members is gonna have to step up to the chair position at that point. But I think you're gonna have an issue there. That's the only real issue that I see with chief electoral officer. But I agree, it's not a bad idea.
the next person on my list is Senator Greenlaw.
Yeah, okay. just to summarize, I see, yeah, Lucas Baylock Engineering Center. I see President Walker's point. My argument was not to state that a senator was more prepared. I was just, we were spitballing through a couple different roles that had experience in these areas, and it was mostly to avoid having to double executive on the hiring panel, was kind of the big thing here. Yeah, I can, ERB Chair, Posey, thank you. Sorry, too many thoughts. Can you confirm when the hiring dates are from these? Because shouldn't this newly hired board be far enough away that there shouldn't be any complaints about the election?
Yeah, direct response kind of was ERB Chair. You're correct in saying there wouldn't be anything about the election, which I guess in that case means that the CEO that would sit on that hiring panel, we would just have to specify it's the active CEO, because if we did incoming CEO, a la after AGM when the new one was elected, then we end up with a point where in the next year it would be that. So for example, for the incoming ERB chair, we would have Maddie sit on it, and then for the next year, for the next speaker, you then have an ERB chair and deputy chair who were not hired by the active speaker, and then that active speaker, once they've gone through their elections, and if they have to do what the ERB to do, then they would then hire the next ERB chair. We would have to specify that it is the active, or the acting chief electoral officer, I think I'll say, because then that covers any time until May 1st, in theory, for the chief electoral officer position inclusive.
Point of information. Someone clarify what the concern is with VPSA, because I personally don't see it, and a lot of the debate is like around sort of who the alternative is. I think I'm missing why we are looking for an alternative, I guess.
Direct response, Lucas Baylock Engineering Center. The idea is the VPSA has the largest part of directors and a lot of people under them, as well as especially complaints in these earlier days of the ERB over the summer are almost certainly to do with the actions of the executive. So having two executive members hire that person, the new ERB chair, kind of creates a weird dynamic and possibility to see that it wasn't that any decisions made by that ERB chair were affected by who hired them. So just trying to even out the board. I think, yeah, if we were talking about like a 5-person hiring committee and the execs weren't such a large percentage, then we'd be having a different conversation. But it's more to do with how, I think, there's 4 people on this board, so exec would be half of them, is the big thing here.
Yeah, go ahead.
Professional privilege, I threw a washroom. I'm proxying this to the Director of Communication.
Okay, Connor was the ERB chair. The active hiring panel for chair and deputy chair is only 3 people. So if it was president and VPSA, it would be 2 members of the executive, and then just yeah, and more so than anything, the conversation that was had was for the exact reasons why we figured the rector was in there in the first place, was to minimize the amount of people that the ERB might in the course of their year have to investigate that would actively be hiring the ERB. So I'd like to amend that to the acting chief electoral officer / speaker if it is amenable to people in the room.
It's Ian Schaefer, Director for Internal Processes. I just have one last question. What if they are interviewing for Engineering Review Board Chair? Because that is not a position they directly oversee, so they would, in fact, be able to. Like, Maddie could apply to the ERB Chair next year. What happens?
Like I did. Oh, I'm so right.
This is fair. Deputy Speaker.
Yes, go ahead.
Madam WRC President, what about the active president?
True, your direct response kind of was, you could just fix all of this by making it the active president and the active VPSA. and then they would hire somebody that takes their place after they're gone, and then there is nobody on that panel that the ERB, or the newly elected ERB would ever have to investigate because they're no longer in their office.
Okay, all right.
I'd like to hear from President Walker.
Yes.
I think direct response to that.
Yes.
President. I think that makes sense. Like, I think I guess a little bit my concern with kind of, like sort of going to the more and more removed roles in the executive was like we could grab like the second year ECE rep and they definitely have no conflict of interest, so then why are we making them do hiring, right? Like, it's just like a weird, like to a certain extent, I think it just makes sense for people who are in senior roles to be the ones who are hiring other senior roles. But yeah, I think current BPSA and Pres, like it would be EMO hiring next to a DRB and then we go piece out. That makes sense.
So that's,
Friendly amendment.
all right. Is there any further debate on motion 5?
That's point of information. Sorry, both 1 and 2 are now changed to the current president and vice president.
Language should probably be acting.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right.
So like the acting president, the acting vice president, student affairs.
Well, don't we have the definition for acting for if they step down?
It should probably be.
It should be current?
Because in case someone's out of commission for like 2 weeks.
Okay, fine, current.
Okay, all right. Current. Is there any further debate on motion 5? Seeing none. Is there a closing from either of our movers? Is that a no from our mover?
It's a. Okay, Connor was the EV chair. Adjust current to outgoing, because then it makes it clear. But other than that, no closing.
All right, for sure. No closing. We're going to move into the voting of motion 5. Motion 5. Whereas the rector doesn't really get involved in hiring up other faculty societies, and whereas the changes in ERB hiring made certain old passages irrelevant, be it resolved that council approves of the changes to policy section gamma and epsilon as seen in appendices, spell ERB without the rector, and can I order ERB hold the board? Moved by Connor Bosey, seconded by Oliver Lynn. Can I see votes for the motion, please? Thank you very much. Can I see votes against the motion? Are there any abstentions? Motion 5 passes. All right, we will now move into motion 6. Motion 6, whereas there should be some transparency about the process of FREC hiring, which should utilize hiring resources offered by the Engineering Society, and whereas fairness and equity is maintained during the FREC hiring process, be it resolved that council approve of the changes to policy/bylaw section gamma B, hiring policy, as seen in appendix and FC hiring policy ERB. Moved by Jay Nicola, seconded by Jacob Ravelis. Is there an opening with either of our movers?
Yeah. Jay Nicola, outgoing orientation chair. This policy is for the purpose of taking everything that is in regards to FREC hiring and putting it in its own section at the end of hiring policy so that it's easy and accessible, and that we're also updating the policy to be what's currently maintained during the hiring period.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there any debate on the motion?
Connor was the ERB chair. The specifics of this policy, you'll notice the ERB is at the end of it, helped draft this. The specifics of it, mimics the structure of the design team joint hiring policy in everything, including like the scope and everything. And I went through, and anywhere where it said an exception shall be made for FREC hiring was included in this section, so that it's all in one like concise area as opposed to just spread out throughout all the hiring policy.
All right, thank you very much. Is there any further debate on the motion? Motion 6. Seeing none, is there a closing from either of our movers?
No.
All right, sounds good. So this is a change to both policy and bylaw. We'll vote on it together, and then when we come back in the winter, is it not a change to bylaw?
Oh, it's just policy.
All right, so motion 6 says bylaw. I will carry that and say just policy. Wonderful. Never mind. We will now vote on motion 6. Motion 6, whereas there should be some transparency about the process of FREC hiring, which should utilize hiring resources offered by the Engineering Society, and whereas fairness and equity is maintained during the FREC hiring process, be it resolved that council approve of the changes to policy section gamma B, hiring policy, as seen in appendix FC hiring policy ERB. Moved by Jay Nicholas, seconded by Jacob Bellis. Can I see votes for the motion, please? Are there any abstentions? Are there any votes of no? Opposed, thank you. Any opposed? Motion 6 passes. That was embarrassing for me. All right, motion 7, moving right along. Whereas the PED Workshops Committee has canceled numerous events and removed budgeted items from other workshops. And whereas the PD ANS Committee has come up with amazing new workshop ideas for ANS that require additional supplies, be it resolved that PD would like to reallocate funds within the workshop committee budget and add funds to the ANS budget. Moved by Max Nobody. Montanaro. Montanaro? Seconded by Jack. Low problems. Walker. Is there an opening from either of our movers?
Max Montemoreno, Director of Professional Development. Yeah, basically we had originally 20 workshops scheduled due to some hiring constraints at the start of the semester, and also just general redundancy between a couple of workshops. We had to cancel a few of them, and then also we originally had some different activities planned for the workshops at the Alumni Networking Summit in January, but we changed those, and now those will require some additional supplies, so just adding some money to the budget for that. The total difference from the original budget is an addition of $203.90. So, and otherwise we're just reallocating money within the workshops budget and the workshops that we cancel.
Is there any debate on the motion? Yes.
Yeah, Chair Billsy. Could Director Montanaro talk about just what happened with those workshops? I know you mentioned hiring. Was it just a hiring issue where you couldn't get people, or I just want to hear more about why these didn't happen if they were planned?
That's first response. So we had originally in the workshops committee only 2 members at the start of the year. So we just have to wait until some additional members join the committee to run some of the workshops, just due to lack of sheer manpower. And also there was some redundancy between some of them. So for example, we had 2 different workshops scheduled for a quick information session. We reduced that to 1, just basically reducing flow within the portfolio.
Is there any further debate on the motion? All right, seeing none, is there a closing from either of our movers? All right, seeing none, we're going to move into voting on motion 7. Whereas the PD Workshops Committee has canceled numerous events and removed budgeted items from other workshops, and whereas the PD ANS Committee has come up with amazing new workshop ideas for ANS that require additional supplies, be it resolved that PD would like to reallocate funds within the Workshops Committee budget and add funds to the ANS budget. Moved by Max Montemoreno, seconded by Jack Walker. Can I see votes for the motion, please? Thank you very much. Are there any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, motion 7 passes. Whew. Motion 8. This is the motion about the presentation that we saw earlier today. So motion 8, whereas Shad Canada is looking to support a larger community in their #STEAM4Good movement, and whereas we feel it would be good for Queens to be a part of that. Be it resolved that Council ratify Queens Shad Club as seen in Appendix Queens Shad Constitution. Moved by Lucas 011025 Baylog, seconded by Remy, question mark, Allison, thirded by the lol Kelly. Is there an opening from any of our movers? Yeah.
Lucas Baylog, Engineering Center. Yeah, so this is following up on the motion, the presentation earlier. This is just the formal motion to say, yes, this can be a club within the Engineering Society that we recognize. Yeah, I'm happy to take any questions, but at the same time, Senate is also interesting today, so I'm planning on yapping a lot. Later, you've been warned.
Thank you very much. Is there any debate on the motion? Seeing none. Is there a closing from either of our movers? Any of our movers?
Thanks, everybody.
All right. We will now vote on motion 8. Motion 8. Whereas Shad Canada is looking to support a larger community in their #STEAM4Good movement, and whereas we feel it would be good for Queens to be a part of that. Be resolved that Council ratify Queens Shad Club as seen in the Appendix Queens Shad Constitution. Moved by Lucas Baylog, seconded by Remy Allison, thirded by Mo Kelly. Can I see votes for the motion, please? Amazing. Are there any opposed to the motion? Are there any abstentions? All right, motion 8 passes. Amazing. All right. Motion 9, final motion of the night. Whereas the changes to how they calculate their student fees and as a result are not charging it this year. And whereas the Canadian Engineering Leadership Conference, CELP, all right, is an awesome opportunity and we should give to as many students as possible. Be it resolved that council approves the budget changes as seen in the appendix, CFES fee changes and extra Calc delegate. Moved by Ethan, Calc more like cool power. Seconded by Jack, more like quack walk. Is there an opening from either of our movers?
Yeah, Ethan Powell, Director of External Relations. So basically, this motion is the CFES, so the Canadian Federation of Engineering Students, is changing their fee. Basically, what the fee is, it's just like how you pay an NSOC fee for Queens. They have a CFES fee, which is around 65 cents per student, and they're changing the way they calculate it, just the amount of numbers of students they're like counting. They're changing it to like the end of the year, and as a result, they're not charging it this year. So this is around a $2,600 or like $3,000 change in the budget that is not going to be paid, and we're planning on reallocating that to give another opportunity for another delegate to attend CELP, which is Canadian Engineering Leadership Conference, which is a week-long conference in January. And yeah, we're just moving the money there because we're no longer paying for the fee, and it's around like it's from $3,000 to $1,000, so we're still saving around $2,000 in total. We're just giving more opportunities to our students.
Thank you very much for the opening. Is there any debate on the motion? Yes, Senator Jones.
Jane Virgin, Senator. I'm just wondering, with this conference coming up very quickly, what is your plan to hire the new said delegate to go through this?
Yeah, so we actually already chose a potential Ethan Powell, Director of External Relations. So we have already hired delegates, but that hiring process is finished. This is just to get that approved so that they can go.
Is there any further debate on motion 9? Yes.
Ian Schaefer, Director of Internal Processes. I know there are a few other conferences coming up. What was the reason behind this one specifically as opposed to any of the other ones? I know Kale was in February.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Director of External Relations. So the reason we chose CELP specifically is because usually there's more delegates sent to CELP. This year in our budget we made an exception and we're sending only one delegate and myself, so that we can send more people to OEC. We just thought that was more valuable, but since we have this extra money, we want to bring back the extra delegate to CELP, because we send one person. So CELP was a conference that I went to last year, so did Jack, and so did 2 other people from Queens, and it had this big impact, and we just thought that CELP is one of the conferences that can provide one of the biggest impacts, and we don't want to see, we want to see the most students from Queens there as possible.
Connor Posey, ERB Chair. You mentioned that the person's already been hired. Were they aware of the extra position when hiring started, or was that only made aware after hiring concluded?
So it was around this time where me, Jack, and Simon. Okay, Director of External Relations, Ethan Powell. It was around this time where we realized that this fee wasn't being charged after the president's meeting, and we were looking at our budget at what we could change around and where we could find extra money for CELP. And yeah, and so when we were hiring under the assumption that we were hiring for 2, even though there was 1 in the budget. But we thought that there wouldn't be an issue because there was a $3,000 gain.
Is there any further debate on the motion? Seeing none, is there a closing from either of our movers? All right, we will now move into voting on motion 9. Whereas the CFES is making some changes to how they calculate their student fees and as a result are not charging it this year, and whereas the Canadian Engineering Leadership Conference is an awesome opportunity that we should all give to as many students as possible, be it resolved that Council approves the budget changes as seen in appendix, CFES fee changes, and extra CELP delegate. Moved by Ethan Powell, seconded by Jack Walker. Can I see votes for the motion, please? Thank you very much. Are there any opposed? Are there any abstentions? Motion 9 passes. Woo! Amazing. So we have now made it through the end of the motions, and we are going to take a quick All right, it is 8:45, so we are going to move back into council. You good? Hi. All right. Amazing. We're going to start with the executive reports once we get the council up on the screen. It's coming now. President Walker, would you like to start your report? We'll put it up there.
Sure. Jack, quack, 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 Walker. I did it. You just weren't looking. No. I mean, yeah, what I've been up to is all in the report. The one main thing that I actually wanted to chat about at council is that I had a very interesting sit down with the faculty's VP, Finance and Operations, Nicole, the other day about the Fed Fund. And it clarified a whole bunch of stuff about how the back end of it works and answered a lot of stuff that we've kind of been in the dark about for several years at least. So I just wanted to go over that for council just to get it out there so everyone understands something that I think we've been a little bit lost about. So if you were on council last year, you will remember that we passed a bunch of policy explicitly breaking down like how much money of the income from the fund we were supposed to reinvest to account for inflation. And then we were told by the faculty that that's not a thing that we can do or that we need to do. And we were confused as to why. Basically, the way that endowment funds work at Queen's, and we didn't realize this, is that if you create an endowment fund, you're not actually putting money into a pot. What you're doing is basically buying units or like shares of the Queen's Pooled Endowment Fund, and then you get a payout per unit every year, and that payout increases with inflation. So we have records of the Fed Fund showing that the amount in the fund has only increased every year when we've reinvested, and that's been us buying more units. But that is actually happening on top of the increased payout per unit. So sometime later this year, we're going to be passing another chunk of policy, basically getting rid of all the stuff from last year about reinvestments, because we do not, in fact, need to be doing that. That is confirmed how that works. Nicole showed me the reports on her computer, which I definitely can't get access to, but she did show them to me, about the payout per year, and it does go up with CPI, and it's a 3-year average. So this is actually a thing that is handled. So the main takeaways are the fund does not, we are not going to be having to deal with any kind of inflationary effects ourselves. That is already covered. And the other side effect of this is that the fund is generating significantly more money than we thought it was, because we thought we had to reinvest about $50K every year that we just get to keep. Well, we don't get to keep it, but we get to spend it. So that's basically the Fed Fund is doing significantly better than we thought it was, and also we don't have to do as much work as we thought we did to manage it going forwards. Just wanted to put that out there so that it doesn't get lost in transition ever. I want this to be public knowledge, because this should be public knowledge.
All right. Now we'll hear from the off.
All right. Now we move to the ops.
Lily Scott, Vice President of Operations. It's all in the report. Just to clarify though, because I learned from the council that I wasn't at last week, that ETF is not the US, but it just gives you crumbs. So the long-term liability account, you guys it's back-end finance stuff. You guys will be hearing more about from stuff at the next council in the new year. But just so we're clear on what ETF means in my report. Also, if you or anyone you know is interested in becoming my lower, yeah, looking for my lower right now. For anyone who's interested in my role as much as possible. And yeah, pretty much it. Tier report came in. Yay! Super exciting. That's a picture of me admiring the fridge. Get yourself some of that with you. That's all.
All right, we'll now hear from BPSA. Is there anyone available to get the BPSA report? Yes?
Whoever should have been a point of order.
Oh. All right, it's all in the report. That's a good point. Oh, it's her.
Whoa.
That offer was on the floor. All right, so now hear from the VPFA.
Avery Cotton, Vice President of Finance and Administrations. As much as I would love to say it's on the report, I submitted my report from last council twice, so that's last council's report. That being said, things I've been doing, general kind of day-to-day stuff, donation balances, MS General Assembly, that was super fun, and a bunch of month ends with DFOs. Oh, and we had executive night, so if you're interested in VPFA, it's super fun. Please come and chat with me. Things that we'll be doing the next 2 weeks. BOE closure. Adam will talk about that more in his thing. I just want to make sure that everyone is aware of that. Yep, that's about everything that's over from everyone. Thanks, guys.
All right, we will now move into the director report, starting with the director of academics.
Director is Ron Cassad. Can I say it's all in the report?
Absolutely, again. That's what he said.
The speaker's discretion, whether
Yeah,
that's
my
allowed.
discretion. Awesome, we'll now move into the report from the director of clubs and conferences.
Bernie Allison, Director of Clubs and Conferences. It's on the report. The only thing is QEC co-chair hiring closes December 1st, so if you want to apply to that, you should do that. If you have questions, let me know. And a bunch of almost all the conferences in January have their ticket sales going up in the next few weeks. If you want to attend the conferences, keep your eye out on the Instagrams.
Amazing, we'll now hear from
Report this week. The most noteworthy thing is there's a comms event happening on December 3rd. There's going to be like photo booth scavenger hunt. Encourage people to come out before exams. And then also submit things to the All-Eng. It's a great resource. It goes to everybody. I've been getting really low submissions. If you're having an event, if you're hiring something, you technically have to. But yeah, submit things to the All-Eng. It's getting pretty low every week, and there's definitely like positions being hired for and things that are being missed there. So yeah.
Awesome. We will now hear from the director of design.
Tanner Roy, Director of Design. I formally apologize to Chloe for being a day late. Nothing really of importance to council from the board. I would like to appreciate the picture that I found in the lead photos, though.
You're welcome, Jack.
All right, order in council, please. Very funny, we're laughing silently. We're gonna laugh silently so we can hear it. All right, we'll now hear from the director of educational services.
Charlie Angel, Director of Educational Services. I don't know why you guys are laughing. I thought that was a pretty cool photo of our president, so I like it. Again, it's not funny. Yeah, just normal stuff. Statics, had management and deputy. Finally finished hiring for the thing y'all saw me put on the screen a bunch of times. So we got a full Science Quest team now. Want to shout out Lily, who's, I don't know, done around 300 interviews in her time at Queens. I think that was her last one, perhaps. It's pretty cool. Not many people can say that they've hired 300, or they've done 300 interviews. So that's pretty neat. We've had new transition meetings with the new Science Quest team, which have gone pretty well. And this Tuesday, or yesterday, we had the last ad board of the semester for Science Quest, which also went surprisingly well. Yeah, next few weeks, normal statics. As always, we'll continue doing transition meetings for the Science Quest team, trying to just get caught up on the year, and help out EngLinks with their exams and workshops. And there's no meme today, because I'm proud of you guys. You've done a really good job this year, so.
Thanks, Charlie. All right, we will now hear from the director of equity and advocacy, or someone
I'm willing to give the report. Yeah, go ahead.
Maybe Director of the Faculty Advocacy, it's on the report.
That is me as a child.
The next on the top says how it feels signing off with NSOC emails with regards instead of cheers. Stacy. All right, we will now hear from the Director of External Relations.
The God's External Relations, it's all in the report. Check out my Freaking bad.
I am open to hearing you guys say it's all in the report, but if there is something that you feel like we should know about in the report, please let us know. All right, great. All right, wonderful. We'll now hear from the Director of Finance.
Adam McKinley, Director of Finance. Past couple weeks just maintaining Bank of NSHOC operations, reimbursements, trying to get the FO's BMO access so that hopefully we can have quicker turnaround times on inquiries about deposits. Over the next couple weeks, I guess catching stuff up and catching stuff up, fixing stuff up. It's all in the report if you're curious. Feel free to ask me any questions you want. The Bank of NSHOC is closing on November 30th, so over the next couple of days, if you have any reimbursement requests that you want us to get to before Christmas break, make sure to do that in the next couple of days.
We'll now hear from the Director of First Year.
Cynthia Marini, Director of First Year. Hi, everyone. It's basically on the report, just one thing to note. Thank you to everyone who came to Jackson Council. Thanks, Noah, for taking photos. All the photos are now in the link tree in the Adobe Instagram, so go check this out. Yeah.
Good job. All right. It's now time to hear from the Director of Governance.
Chloe McCloskey, Director of Governance. It's in the report. One thing, so we've been planning general NSHOC elections. Quite exciting. I kind of circulated a rough schedule, and I'm in the process of trying to change it. I made all the bookings already, though. So the reveal, right now, it's voting on Tuesday, Wednesday, and then reveal on Thursday. We're trying to move it to Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and the request of the exec, because I don't know how director hiring works, because, I didn't know how many people applied and how long it took. So, I'm trying to move it, and if I can move it, then I will. Just a warning, yeah. Oh, and I was disappointed with the lack of meetings in general. So in protest, there's no meme by Chloe this week. You don't put the effort in, I won't either. That's the vibe.
All right, we will now hear from the Director of Human Resources.
Izzy McKee, Director of Human Resources. Mostly the usual. It's all in the report. Things that are coming up. February 27th will be the NSHOC hiring fair. So keep that in mind because we need a representative from every club, design team, committee, director, everyone. So, but there'll be more information about that coming soon. Also, the feedback booth feedback is coming. I said it got distributed, but I actually couldn't open Excel in the ILC, so that's coming this week. That's it.
Hear from the Director of IT.
Media Gandhi, Director of IT, got this report this week. So basically, main thing past 2 weeks, the website was down last week for the most part, from the back end. So if you submitted tickets that weren't answered, it's because we couldn't do anything with the website, but it's all up and running again. So tickets should be being answered now.
All right, thanks very much. We'll now hear from the Director of IT.
Ian Schaefer, Director of Internal Processes. I forgot to submit a report again. I'm really missing the ball. This is 2 weeks in a row. This is brutal. I will have that fixed by next council. These 2 weeks, banquet is coming along really, really well, which I'm super happy about because it means that my lower won't have to do nearly as much of it. So that's really, really good because they can focus on some other stuff. I've been doing loads of FIPCO stuff. I'm happy to report that my FIPCOs are the 3 most dialed first years I've ever met, so I'm pretty happy about that. The next 2 weeks is a little bit more FIPCO stuff before finals, trying to get some stuff finished up this semester, and then finals and chaos.
Although we do have the personal stuff. Okay. All right. I'm here for the director of PD.
Director of PD, Max Montemoreno, development report.
It's all in the report except that Goldman's Pony Night is Friday and Chloe's performing, so you guys should all go. And for the first years, Jack and Pickup's gonna be December 14th. And yeah.
Alright, hold on. Alright, we'll now hear from the director of student life. Oh, sorry. Now we're going to hear from the director of student life. Yeah, sure.
Next up, director of student life. Hi guys. November, I don't know if people were at the ILC around noon today, but such a success. His beard went for $50 and Matt's went for $100. Go find him. It looks really, yeah, it's really a lot. December 6th, emails and event coordination. That'll be fun. Well, good event, serious. So that. Plotting walking my children on her own. Oh, she has escaped the ILC that her victims are coming. I'm not sorry. Anyway, the next 2 weeks is December 6th. Bye, It's her and her housemates on a cake. Just hear me out. It's really awkward.
Alright, so we will now move into the first question period. If you have any questions for directors or the executive. Yeah, okay.
Benedict Reese, President. My question is for Jack Walker. The investments, like the shares that we buy, is it so it's the exact same as the Queen's University shares, so their investments are the same as ours?
Direct response, Jack Walker. It's so the Queen's pooled endowment is basically like a central, massive investment pool that is managed by Queens. That, to my knowledge, all of their investments are operated out of. Maybe Lucas actually knows something about that.
Point of information: there's the pooled endowment fund and the pooled investment fund.
We're in the pooled endowment fund.
Yes.
But so yes, with any other endowment fund that exists at Queens that is out of the pooled endowment fund, it would have the same, I think, the same value per unit. But that is what we have yet.
Follow up. Did your meeting give any clarity as to when we get exact numbers for that fund for system?
No. Basically, well, so there is two funds. Spoiler alert. Basically, there's a collection pool, and then there's the actual endowment itself. Prior to our referendum last year, we were collecting income into the collection pool and then spending out of it, and the endowment itself was just growing and growing. Now that we are not collecting income, our position is that we should continue spending down the collection pool until it is empty and let the fund keep growing until we need to access the interest, which will probably be a couple of years, because there's still like $400,000 or so sitting in the collection pool. So we want to keep spending that down and keep growing the actual endowment until we need to. A little bit of lack of clarity from the faculty about whether or not they are going to be facilitating us doing that or not. So we're working on it, but no. I mean, the numbers that are available to spend this year should be roughly the amount that was unspent from last year, because at this point we're basically just spending down a static pile of money. But we're working on it.
I saw Monica Saab, Director of Academics, just adding onto what Jack said. So from the faculty right now, which should be very similar to the projections based on the reports. So numbers were given to reps at yesterday's meeting from that. Whoever did not show to the meeting, they'll be emailed on the weekend. So those should be very, very close numbers. They vary slightly based on minimum items that were like price changes or not purchased for some reason. But other than that, they're pretty much set.
Ian Schaefer, Director of Internal Processes. Question for Noah Noshnev, Director of Communications. If I was to submit something to the All-Eng, where would I submit it?
Direct response. You can find the link to submit directly in the All-Eng newsletter.
All right, good question.
I'm just wondering, for the jacket pickup, did I hear correctly that it was on the 14th?
Can I direct? Yes, it's on the 17th.
It's on the what?
Yes.
Yes, okay, so I'm just wondering, if I remember correctly, the jacket sign was on the 15th, so I just wanna make sure there's enough time for all of them to pick up the jackets. Cause if I remember from last year, I think there were 2 days that were pickups because one of them was like quiet pickup or something. I just wanna make sure there's time for all of that.
Can I direct response again? There's only one day this year, just due to when the jackets are coming in and when the last exam is. And the jackets in, but there's 2 separate times happening, and that is still gonna be considered. Like, there still is a quiet pickup time. That's just so you know.
Cool, just wanted to make sure.
Are there any further questions for any of the ED team?
Sophie Marini, Director of First Year. It's not a question, I just about that. It's over my report, and I'm just remembering now. For all the DFCs, the all discipline fair is happening January 11th, which is Saturday. So can you just like keep your eyes peeled for an email sent out either myself or my vice manager. Please don't go to this.
Amazing. Any further statements or questions by members?
Just a point of information, I have to leave by or is leaving in 5 minutes.
Point of personal, yeah, for sure, to have a proxy, but we're not voting. All right, are there any further questions for the ED team or statements in regards to the ED team? All right, seeing that, we're gonna move on. We got the faculty board report. Who would like to give the faculty board report? President Walker.
Yeah, Walker. It's been a minute since last time, so I'm actually blanking on the time. We haven't met, right?
Yeah, it was half about the Senate motion.
Okay, yeah. I just needed to okay, so at our last faculty board meeting since last council, the biggest sort of notable item of business was that faculty board voted to make a recommendation to Senate that Senate should resume in-person activity, because right now they've been, I believe, fully online since the event with the protests and people coming in and making like a disruption. So the faculty board voted to recommend to Senate that they resume in-person activities with the option for online accommodations for people who can't make it or are uncomfortable because of the worry about protesters or anything like that. So the exact wording of that recommendation is actually being ratified at the next faculty board, which I believe is on Wednesday next week. I think that was the biggest substantive item on the discussion. I'm gonna defer to Lucas.
We've got a lot of good research chairs.
Yeah,
Money's
lots of
coming in for research. We're not doing hard there, don't worry.
Yeah, that's the big one.
All right.
I have like 3 other assignments. One, Smith plans are mostly based on hiring for next year. Otherwise, faculty is behind on CAB documentation submissions. And also the timetabling was approved for next year, and fall ends relatively early on the 20th. I thought people might want to.
Timetabling your session dates. Yeah.
Point of personal leverage, by the way, point of personal leverage. All right, great. Is there any further statements from faculty board? No. All right, great. We'll move on to the AMS report. Is someone available to give the AMS report? Yeah. Okay.
Walker. There's the exposure there. So, yeah, AMS. Some of you guys may have seen all all of the crazy coverage on social media and news and whatever about the Queen's Journal motions that were discussed. So there was an AMS semi-annual dinner meeting, I guess, on the 18th of November. The two big items that were debated there were the two motions about the Queen's Journal. Basically, the actual reports that were on the table, one was to have the editors-in-chief of the journal have to submit a report to AMS Assembly upon request, and the other was just to strike a committee to basically sort of reinvestigate or take another look at the journal's policy and how it adheres to the AMS Constitution. This is a whole big weird thing because the journal is a service under the AMS the same way that like Quebec Pub or the T-Room are services under us. However, because they are also like an actual news publication, there is obviously a certain level of autonomy that they're expected to be able to have, so they could do critical reporting on the AMS without like, you know, having to worry about reprising, basically. So the rollout of these two motions and how they were presented and the fact that the initial version of them before they were amended was a lot more kind of restrictive on them led to a lot of people being very upset, feeling like the journal's sort of editorial autonomy was being compromised. I actually don't think that the two motions that were presented were overly heavy-handed, and I think most, like, it was actually quite a long, I mean, the meeting went a ridiculous length of time, but there was actually a fairly two-sided discussion there. It wasn't just that the AMS executive proposed this and was shot down by everyone. But the end result was that both motions did fail, because it was an AGM, the journal rolled up with like 100 people who all had votes, and that was kind of the end of it. But, yeah, those were the two main motions that were discussed. The other kind of relevant things were that the Assembly voted for the AMS to officially endorse a petition from a club called Queen's Backing Action on Climate Change, calling for the Queen's University to divest from fossil fuels. So the AMS has officially sort of taken their stance that they support the petition and will be providing them kind of resources and marketing efforts and things like that, which I thought was cool. And then the other bigger motion was that AMS Assembly adopted a new equity policy that was not developed by the AMS, but developed by a external student group. Like I don't know if they're a ratified club or not, but it was developed by a student group as opposed to the actual AMS, and then it was adopted by the AMS.
All right, thank you for the AMS report, Mr. Walker. We will now move into the Senate report.
Lucas Baylog, Engineering Center. We were expecting today's Senate to be calm unless we didn't feel we needed to submit a report. We were wrong. Yeah, me and Jenny got to have a good long yap session about what's going on. We denied a research strategic plan, which is problematic, so we'll see how that one goes. But the big thing I wanted to talk about now that it's front and public is something called Queen's 2040. Not sure if you've heard about that one. Use math, hey, 2040, 15 years away. That's because we're doing a 15-year strategic plan. So the background on this is the board was trying to get us to balance budget. The provost went to them and said, hey, you're doing this too fast. And they said, really? Show us a plan and we'll let you slow down. And they went, okay, when do you want? And they said in 4 months over the summer. And senior leadership went, 4 months is too short and nobody's here to consult. And the board went, yep, we still want it 4 months. So they did some consultation over the summer. I was briefed as caucus chair, but NDA, confidential, blah, 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 blah. They changed a lot. And so now they're finally got a plan. They're gonna send out a message to the entirety of the Queen's community in January asking for input on this long-term strategic plan. But basically this is the whole of the university. Classes, research, profs, graduate, undergraduate, PhD, whole shebang. And it's got a lot of different proposals in it. Thankfully they are going to keep the on-campus student population at about 30,000, so we don't need to worry about the housing issues getting worse. But there is lots of plans to add on a whole lot of micro-credentials and online courses. There's also some ideas about possibly reshaping the faculty makeup. So right now it doesn't have us changing much, but there is significant talks about splitting up arts and science, which would be interesting. So there's a lot going on. It's finally starting to be public. I mean, they briefed a quarter of faculty on it in August. It's been talked about a lot. And I'm assuming AMS is going, the president of AMS has confirmed that he's going to be having a discussion item about it. And me and Jenny got to work on how we're consulting you guys as well as try to figure out how I'm working with the AMS on that one. But just a heads up, big things are happening next semester. We're going to be talking a lot about what the next 15 years of Queens look like, which will be interesting. But I just wanted to give my overview of what's going on. If I haven't said if you hear anything that I did not say, that's because it was just an idea and they probably haven't gone forward with it too much. I just wanted to catch everybody before some of our online friends start sharing their not as informed opinions. Thank you. I'm not sure if Jenny has anything to add.
Jenny Burns, Junior Senator. The only thing I would just clarify is that at the beginning, Lucas mentioned the strategic research plan. It wasn't denied. It's been currently tabled to be reviewed in January. There were some discussions just about some of the content within it, and they just wanted to have it more clarified. So it'll be coming back to the Senate in January.
Amazing. Thank you very much, Senators, for your Senate report, and I look forward to what next semester brings. Great. All right, we will move forward into the ERB report.
Connor Bose, ERB Chair. Hi. So last 2 weeks, I mean, a bunch of you have seen me in meetings, which has been super fun. A lot of my plans to kind of make policy and bylaw more accessible to the everyday student, campaign, things like that. So thank you all for taking the time to meet with me. I really appreciate it. I'm writing a bunch of ERB SOPs to keep consistency throughout the years. They basically act as their own set of governing documents for the ERB. Which in theory should limit the amount of internal power that we have and make things very straightforward on the inside so that it's a position that once it's fully fleshed out with how it is in our policy should be able to be abused from the inside as well. Helped out with the FC policy changes, reviewed this council, did the director hiring thing that you saw. Been having meetings, I can't tell if this is part of my sci-formal mentorship or if it's part of the ERB chair, but for some reason there's calls from both sides wanting the ERB to get involved in any and all raffles for sci-formal tickets, even if raffles aren't happening. It's a weird thing. I'll update you as that gets addressed because I know many people looking to be in sci-formal or looking to attend might want to know the clarity and the kind of responsibility of what's happening there, but just know the ERB has been asked to be involved. Against my better wishes, but I will keep you guys updated on that. And review the election list. And then next 2 weeks, I'm going to finish up all my SOPs over the break. You're going to help me with that, and just all the campaign and action items that I was talking about all the directors. So thank you. I have 2 meetings. Yes, Microsoft Word, whenever I type my name in meeting minutes, will now autofill ERB after me.
That's great. All right, we will now hear from advisory board. Is there someone available to give the advisory board?
The Department of Operation. It's all a report. Most important thing is that Science Quest had their end of year presentation and it went well.
Love that. All right, so we will now move into. Oh, I'm so sorry.
We scrolled down to see the whole thing.
All right, great. So we will now move into flood reports. So as a reminder, the way that this works is I will say, we will now hear from club blank, after which we will say blank. Everyone in that discipline will say the name of their discipline, and then all of us will respond with the sound. All right, great. Starting off, we will start with the ECE club, after which we will say ZAP.
ECE. ZAP! Bennett Emery, EC President. I wanted to spit a meme, so now you guys have an actual report of me. Benjamin is sick, so I am here on behalf of the club. We've been up to a lot of things. It's been a month. It has been a month for sure for Today we ran our holiday bake sale. Saw a lot of you guys there. It went really, really well. After all the legal issues were figured out. We ran all of our merch sales. Also, a lot of you guys participated in that. We did really, really well. Sold 40 of our t-shirts that a lot of you guys in Elect 274 are going to enjoy. We made our order yesterday. We have been, for lack of a better term, yapping at the department for their interesting curriculum decisions. Most notably for their direct entry for engineering curriculum, they approved the plan where they essentially put the direct entry comp students in the Tron curriculum for first year, and then in second year they fast track probability for some reason, even though everyone told them not to. They just voted in favor of it anyway. It's a constant problem. And then the third year gap, they said they might make a quantum computing course, but I don't trust them to do it. But that's kind of the current plan. They're also doing a bunch of CAB stuff that they're trying to kind of cover their butts on. So that too. Putting out many fires for our hockey game. We finally got our booking insured and booked today. Thank God, it's been a month and a half. We put out more fires with our eShop platform. We got our money to make our merge payment. That was also a mess. We ran our tryouts. It was super great. We have our team. We got our jersey orders. Everything is great there. Our EC banquet is currently booked for April 2nd. That's a Wednesday at the Holiday Inn. There is a lab for fourth years that week in machine learning, but we got the prop to move it, so there should be no conflicts there. And our bed fund purchases are cooking away. Moving forward, before February 6th, which is our next update, our merch comes out on January 8th, so look out for that. Running our hockey night with Tron. Please take an eye out for ticket sales. Finalize our bed fund purchases, and we will continue to yap to the departments as well as attend disciplines. So,
Amazing. Thank you very much, ECE. We will now hear from MEC after.
All right, Conor Fitzgerald, MEC Vice President of Academics. Happy almost holidays, everybody. For the events that we've been working on for the past little bit, we just recently had a pizza and props night at Clark Hall that was received very well from the department. We're also in the process of planning some company-sponsored and alumni events next semester, so stay tuned for those. We held the MEC X Chem Trivia Night at Clark Hall. It was a very big hit. We are not on the hook for any money, so that's great. And we're also continuing work on our end-of-year banquet logistics. So far, it looks like it's going to be held at, not Clark Hall, Grant Hall, which is super awesome. For the academic side, we held an online aerospace industry night that was very successful. We had various industry professors, which was pretty cool. And we also completed the Q-sets for the courses. In terms of merch, we've been selling some very cool MEC coffee mugs. And we were supposed to start selling stickers, although the Canada Post strike has delayed the shipment and it has yet to arrive. However, the company is sending us double the amount of stickers for the delay, so that was very nice of them. And finally, another round of sweater orders will be placed soon to be sold at the start of next semester, and continue to work on bed fund as well. That should be all the updates. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Matt. We will now hear from mining, after which we say shafts.
Mining! Shafts! Pranoil Body Service and Mr. I'm actually here speaking on behalf of the mining group. So she has given me some updates. Our mentorship program is apparently going really well. Our sponsorships are also going really well. And all our competition teams will be meeting up next year. Apart from that, we had our first Mining for Beers Kingston chapters event 2 days ago, which was a great success. The alumni loved it, the faculty loved it, all the students loved it. So we're hoping to have more such events within the coming semester and more years. So fingers crossed. That's it.
Amazing. Thank you very much, mining. We will now hear from EngFiz, after which we will say nerds.
EngFiz.
Nerds. Izzy Kim, EngFiz Trez. Our updates are we ran full across last week. We got like the best turnout we ever had. That was really fun. We've been having a couple department meetings surrounding similar curriculum changes and the lack of student representation behind these changes, but that's hopefully fixed now. We have our VPs on that. And then same with the Reimagining Engineering Education meeting, and we're getting a student group started to kind of get feedback on those changes.
second night, which will be like the second week of January for Entrance Biz.
Thank you very much, Ensviz. You will now hear from Tron, after which you will do your best R2D2 scream.
Tron.
Okay. Hey Council, Tron's been up to some pretty good stuff.
Personal beverage.
Nice. Pablo Silva, Tron Prez. So in terms of academics, we collected a ton of feedback from everyone. We're going to go to faculty about it soon, tell them what's up. We're also looking into running a review for the Frosh 143 because we don't know if they have any support for that, so we have that for them. What else do we have? For events, Bennett mentioned, Bennett, BC Prez mentioned our hockey status. Things are going really well. Tron had their tryouts. The team is looking in really good shape. I'm super excited. And then our banquet also booked March 21st. What else do I have? We're basically signing contracts now. We've talked to all of our vendors. Let's see what else I have. Yeah, and then our merch is out. Buy it, please, if you're in Tron. That closes soon because Bank of Stock closes soon. And yeah, that's it.
Thank you very much for all of our club sports. Oh, it is. Sorry, I'm blind. Okay, we're now going to do the year report. So as a reminder for how year reports work, it's a bit different than club reports. I'm going to read out the name of each year. If you're in that year, you will say Psi. If you're older than that year, you can say Frosh. If you're younger than that year, you can say old. We will start off with Psi to 6 feet short of the tan. No, we will. Sorry, my apologies. It's on a separate page. Okay, we will first hear from Psi to high five.
Psi to high five.
Alright, Jake, Psi to high five. This week we did a Candygram / we're selling / gotcha sign-ups for next semester. Candygrams went well. Merch selling, we sold a couple shot glasses. Those always are great. Little cups. And then gotcha for next semester should be fun. We finally got a treasure, and we'll be interviewing a thank you for some learning for thank you tomorrow, which is huge, because getting a thank you gift is very important. And we also have a merch interest form, fill that out in our bio, so we can get ready for some pre-orders potentially. And then we're getting ready for our Clark Night next semester also.
Thank you very much, 95. We will now hear from Psi to 6 feet short of the tan.
Psi to 6.
James Rosemar, Psi President. Yeah, it's been a busy couple of weeks. We held our internship night. Bit of a smaller turnout than we expected. We had 8 people total, 7 of who were running the event. So other than that, met with the Psi 27 year exec, discussed a joint Clark event next semester, and I was waiting on communication from Clark on that, but we got that, so we're now moving forward with that. Other than that, working with the BPFA and Director of Finance to figure out our budget and how much money we got to spend, and then once we figure that out, seeing if we have enough to place a merch order and get cool merch for ourselves.
Amazing. Thank you very much, Psi to 6. Now time for the best year, Psi to 7 years.
Oh yeah, it is. Oh yeah.
Psi
to 7.
Hello everyone, Michael Away, Psi to 7 president. What have we done? Well, as James just said, we met with Psi to 6 about our trivia night next term. We've also talked with Clark. I mean, it was already settled. We just kind of talked more about it and about like the goals that we have to meet. I'm also in communication with CEO about Tiny Cups, and we're also doing some of our roles are getting hired this weekend, or the interviews are this weekend, and so hopefully we can get someone in charge of the rest of the merch and take care of that. And yeah, that's it for me. Have a great holidays.
You will now hear from Psi to 8.
Psi to 8.
Psi to 8 Prez. We've been talking all about 151 resource and study session because the last one went super well, so we're thinking about doing something like that for the exam, so we can talk to edge things about making that happen. We've been talking a little bit about market CEO. We started getting like information gets out, we're gonna try to spread the word as much as we can to make sure everyone's in that same space, so I think should that happen, that's pretty much it.
Amazing, thank you so much. We are not done council yet, so please don't start packing up. We're gonna move into our final period of statements and questions by member. I saw Senator Baylog first.
Lucas Baylog, Engineering Center. Can the EC president please clarify what they mean by legal issues with the bake sale? Apparently we're not allowed to joke about that at council, I got in trouble.
Direct response, yeah, it was mostly, Benedict Racing president. We started the process of sanctioning it less than 2 weeks before it happened, which is not the process. So I had to go through our department and try to fast track it. And then we were only able to like sell certain things. So it was kind of restricted, but mischief managed, I guess.
I have, President next.
I just forgot to say, if anyone has like stats. I just know President Michael Wilbam. If anyone has like stats about the sales of Tiny Cups, send it over. Open to everyone. You just have your numbers. You know.
Yes.
Benedict EC president. First thing, direct response to Michael. Side 4 just sold out of theirs. I don't remember how many we got, but it just sells over time. Just get a bunch. My second question for the. Can I?
Yes, you were
My second question is for the senators. So about the Q2040 thing, the original plan was to balance the budget by 2026, and now is it 2040, or is it balanced and there's something else going on?
Lucas Baylog, Engineering Center. We are kind of on track to balance, pending whatever they do with the Queen's Graduate Awards. All faculties except the Faculty of Arts and Science are planned to be balanced by the end of this academic year. Engineering for sure is, Arts and Science has one more year, so by the end of next academic year, all faculty units will be balanced. The proposal to spread it out was so we could have a couple more TAs in classes and just kind of make the cutbacks a little less noticeable in this current year, as well as kind of shifting it to a bit of next year because there'd still be some residuals from all the cutbacks. So even though we'd be balanced next year, we'd still be operating at a reduced budget in a lot of different capacities. So that was what they were trying to do, was kind of spread it out maybe to another 3 years, but at much less deficit than we're currently projecting.
The next person on my list is Trump.
Yeah, Pablo Silva, Trump Press. Question for EC President. Can you elaborate a little bit more on the probability to second year and how would that affect Tron? Do you know?
Direct response, Benedict EC president. To my knowledge, they will take Elect 326, the currently existing probability course. They're going to copy paste it, rename it Elect 226, and that is just for the direct edge and computer engineering students. That is the current plan. Do I think they're going to keep it? No, because they change their mind all the time. But other disciplines who take Elect 326 should still take it in that third year slot that they're currently taking it. They just want to fast track probability for some reason, just for the direct entry kids.
The next person on my list is Stimco Charlie.
I'm Charlie, member at large. I have a question for Georgia first year. How, I'm in Tron, how exactly is the jacket slam going to work for Tron? Because our final exam is a day after general entries final exam, so how exactly is that going to work?
So this is how it ended up happening last year as well. Just because of the larger amount of people like in general stream of engineering, we decided to just do it directly after rocks because there's going to be a bigger turnout and a better turnout regardless of when we do it. Like if we did after the Tron, like after your last exam, people would still be slamming after rocks anyways, and it would just be uncontrolled, like it would just get it. So just to minimize that and like make sure sort of everyone gets to slam at the same time and there's no like issues, we're just gonna do it after rocks. I'm gonna like in an email I send, I'm just gonna say like Tron, you're allowed to touch your GPAs like before you write your last exam. I know that's not how it's supposed to be, but everyone's gonna slam after the rocks exam, and it's better this way, so our turnout because everyone's also gonna go home who wrote rocks on the 15th on the 16th,
by members, there is. Take it away.
Ian Schaefer, Director of Internal Processes. Question for President Walker. You made a couple points about the AMS wanting Queens to defund from fossil fuels, and then also that we had shares in their endowment fund now. Does that mean by extension that NSHOC is also invested in the funds that like the AMS wants Queens to divest from, and do you foresee that being an issue?
Direct response, Jack Walker, President.
Point of Rachel Beveridge. That's not.
I thought the direct response was not to say your name. Jack, quack, Walker. I'm getting real fast with it. So that's a good question, actually. I don't know because I don't know the makeup of the Queen's Pooled Endowment Fund, and I don't entirely know if that's public information or not. I don't think it is. So the petition adopted by the AMS is calling for Queens to divest whatever it has invested in fossil fuels. We don't, like that number, it's certainly not, but hypothetically it could be zero right now. Like we don't know how much the university or what the university's invested in, and we also don't know what they've done with specifically the money that we've given them. Because we basically said, hey, here's $2.5 million, invest it and pay us an amount for it. So we don't really have a way to know whether, you know, they've spread that across their portfolio, whether they put that all in a specific part of their portfolio. Like it's a bit nebulous. So it's possible that if Queens does divest from fossil fuels, that will affect the bed fund the same way that it affects any of their other endowment funds. It's also possible that won't be the case, but regardless, it's nothing that we have any say over whatsoever.
Yes, go ahead.
Luke Spalog, Engineering Center. Divestment is complicated. From the conversations I've had, the pooled endowment fund is usually a bit safer. It's in mutual funds like the S&P 500, that sort of thing. So it's not like it's someone else actually putting it into fossil fuels, and of course we don't have much of a say. The pooled investment fund, which is from surplus revenues and then saving up for big capital projects like buildings, that the university does have a bit more control over, and there's a board committee direct whose whole purpose is deciding what we invest in and what we don't. That's what these petitions are a bit more directed at, is asking this committee specifically, as well as some of the vice principals, to try to pull us out of fossil fuel related companies and that sort of thing. There is unfortunately a bit of a challenge where some people will donate shares of a specific company to the university, and those come with a lot of conditions, and from what I've been told, not all of them, but definitely there are some that we might not be able to actually sell because of how they were gifted to the university. So just a heads up on the complicated nature there.
Are there any further statements or questions by members? Yeah, go ahead.
I'm the Director of Finance. Just a question for Senator Balog. Would the split between ArtSci have any effect on the disciplines that are kind of joining some of the science programs?
Luis Balog, direct response. It's not finalized. It's very much a high level, hey, this is a big offered faculty, why don't we split it? Everyone, yeah, that would make sense. But no, the basic idea would be, because it is already kind of internal, like they have their Bachelor of Science degrees and their Bachelor of Arts degrees, so it is known what is a science department, what is an arts department. I think like geography has a little overlap, so they'd be weird, but I wouldn't be worried about any of our programs, especially because they're engineering sciences programs. Like they're in the name, I think, yeah, I don't think there would be much issue there. It's more of the arts from an engineering society perspective. There's a possibility that the ASIS needs to split into two, and we've got parallel working relationships with them, so we just need to be aware of what's going on. But again, this is a 10-15 year plan. I'm just trying to get everybody actually talking about it and writing stuff down so we don't go, whoops, we didn't think about this.
Any further statements or questions by members? I know you got one. Wait to see if anyone else has. All right, Chloe, Director of
Chloe Masse, Director of Governance. One small thing I forgot to mention, second council of next semester might be on a Monday. Don't need like twice as much pizza. So, you know, I think it'll be fine. It's gonna be the week, so it's either gonna be Monday the 27th or the 30th. We're quite restricted because I have Thursday be all night, and obviously it can't be, governance can't run two things at once. So the plan right now is to put it on Monday the 27th, but if I can successfully move things around, I might move it on the Thursday. We'll see. Be aware. Be aware, that could happen. You'll know by the next time that we all meet up, I will have decided what day that is, so, yeah. Anyway, the best part of council, I'm giving out a tea room gift card to my favorite outfit, and most people didn't follow the theme, guys. You should give me that. Okay, I'm gonna give it to Olivia, is that your name? Yes, I love those glasses, so, they're my favorite. Can you pass that back?
Any final statements or questions by member?
Yeah, do it.
I will now entertain a motion and council. Moved, seconded. Can I see votes for the motion and council? Are there any abstentions?